everybody. Welcome into our latest live show. I forgot that little end piece was right there. And in just a second, you should see me. There I am. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's the 30th of November, 2025. It's the last day of November. Tomorrow, Monday, will be the 1st of December, and we're off into the holiday spirit, the month of holiday spirit, and then the new year, and then before you know it, it's 2026. So this is the beginning of the end of 2025, and I hope it's going to be a joyous occasion and a prosperous one for all of us. Today on our schedule is to take another look at the updates to the KVMs we've been looking at. The reason for this is there's a few of these, primarily this unit here and this unit here, that we purchased very early, one of the very first people to receive these units, and they're a little rough around the edges. Now I'm going to stick to the old adage that anything that's brand new technology, you need to just, if you're willing to adopt it early, you're going to be on a waiting list to get it, and what you get is not completed yet. It should be at least functional. And it'll take about a year to really get it 100%, or as close as they can get to 100%. I don't care if we're talking about Windows 11, you wait a year. If we're talking about some brand new piece of hardware, some brand new printer, even a new model of car. When Ford reintroduced the Bronco, for example, or the very first Tesla electric car, they were not good. But they keep improving, right? They get something out, they got to get it into the hands of the consumer and see how the consumers break it, or how the car breaks under different weather and usage conditions. Once they have that data, they can then start to improve the product. And when it comes to software, software's never done. There's no such thing as a finished piece of software. So the best they can do is get it to a point where it's pretty well polished, and then at that point they're probably losing money on the product because it's already several years old. Nobody's buying it in the amounts that it was being purchased when it was new. And then you have to develop something new, and you probably want to anyway, because within a couple of years the hardware you're using will significantly change. Faster processors, cheaper prices, smaller designs, improvements in manufacturing, and you make a product that's more powerful, less expensive, and has more features, and you start all over again, and the wheel just goes around for the whole time you're alive. What I find really fascinating, we're watching a documentary the other night about Heinz, the company that makes ketchup here in Pennsylvania, or at least that's where they started. And they were the first company, and I mean by a decade, to put electricity in their building. In their manufacturing. When electricity first came out, people were afraid of it. They couldn't see it, and yet if you touched live wires, they could kill you. So people were like, I'm going to stick to a candle, and I'm going to stick to a kerosene lamp, or, that's black magic, this electricity stuff. People used to homestead. Everybody. There wasn't an option. And when these industrial jobs started happening, people would move into the city, and there wasn't enough room to have your own farm. So you had to be able to buy food from somebody. And when that happened, people were selling all kinds of, we're talking the early 1900s here. There were some really unscrupulous sellers that would sell spoiled meat. They would put methanol into alcohol in order to thin it out and get more volume for the money. And a lot of people had stomach issues, abdominal issues. Basically, a lot of stomach cancers were really, really high back then. And as society has changed and more people moved into the city, and then the FDA was created, and they started prosecuting people, for adulterated foods and adding all these things. Once they cracked down on that, food became a lot safer, and how we live today is very different from how we lived 150 years ago. And it's amazing how much our society has evolved in 150 years. It's unrecognizable to those of us alive today. And if you think about what it was like to live back then, we have progressed in so many ways. As I mentioned, it's completely unrecognizable to us today. And it wasn't that long ago. Now imagine that sped up by about 20 times, and you start getting into the electronics evolutions. And what we were doing with computers just 40 years ago pales in comparison to power, performance, screen size, capabilities, the ability to talk to it, have it talk back. We're like living in Star Trek right now. We got reusable rockets, electric cars. It's pretty amazing just what we've seen in our lifetime so far. Technologies we've seen come and go, from cassette tapes to CDs to DVDs, all gone. I mean, they're still out there, they still exist, but the popularity and ubiquity of them rose to fame and then faded into forgetfulness, except for collectors and folks that are nostalgic for that. And you know, the introduction to the microwave oven to everybody's kitchen, the air fryer, you know, we have so much innovation just in our lifetimes. And when it comes to computers, there wasn't such a thing as having a home computer when I was a kid, which wasn't that long ago. And now pretty much everybody has one, or at least they have a computer they call a smartphone, which is just a small computer, portable computer with a phone app on it. That's all it is. So I want you to keep that in mind when we're looking at new technology, and particularly with these KVMs. We're still in the early days. These were just introduced last year, a little over a year ago, and they're really starting to get good. And we're working on the second generation, or the manufacturers are working on the second generation. We're going to talk a little bit about what sort of things they're doing in the second generation. We're also going to remind you that the second generation is brand new. So if you're wanting a perfect product, wait a year before you buy a second generation. If you want a perfect product, buy the first generation now that it's a year old. I don't know why I'm pointing at these backwards. This one is actually a second gen. This is a first gen. And adjust your expectations accordingly, all right? Because I don't want you to have unrealistic expectations. All the same things I'm telling you apply to everybody on this planet. You're not exempt from it. The rules don't change for you, and the rules don't change for me. So as long as we know that going into it, we should be very happy with our purchases. That's all I want to say as far as that goes. Let me say hello and welcome to everybody joining us in our chat room this Sunday. And let's see who we've got in here saying hello. Alej Depej renewed his membership, now a member for 35 months. Thank you, Alej. Mark Gaines says hello. And Eddie Casanova joining us, along with Rick Lakes joins us, David Graham, and our friend Buster, who also sends the usual Amazon gift card in lieu of a super chat. Thank you, Buster. I know it's probably cold and rainy in Scotland. Speaking of Scotland, Ben Laird in our chat room says hello. And we see Doman 2000 and Andy W6AD. Taffer 9876 saying hello from Mesa. Francisco Orna says welcome. Frank Jimmy joins us and says hello and happy Cyber Monday Eve. This is true. Brian Weber says hello from a rainy Florida. Scott joins us. Doman 2000. David Herzog. Tony Aindow. And Jim Kenny. Well, welcome in, everybody. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving holiday if you're here in America and you celebrate that. And I don't know, did anybody get any good deals on Black Friday? If so, let us know what was your bargain. Some of you may not get, I mean, the regular viewers know, but people that are not regular viewers here may not get the whole point of these KVMs and why I've made so many videos on them. I want to take a minute to address that because, quite frankly, the innovation of a KVM is so profound to me that it changes everything I do. There's two things happening that are changing the way I work, like significantly changing the way I work. One of those things is AI. When customers would call me for questions and help, customers who know now can go right to AI. They can go right to Gemini. They can go right to Grok. They can go to Copilot and numerous others, ChatGPT, OpenAI. I mean, it goes on and on and on, Perplexity. And they can ask that question exactly the same way they ask me. They don't have to talk in Google language, you know, in computer. They just talk to it like it's a person. And well, it doesn't always give the right answer. It's a free and immediate place that you can start. Because it does often solve the problem or answer the question, the number of calls that I get for support in this last year has significantly dipped, and I suspect that's why. The few customers I've talked to about AI are already aware of it and they're already using it without any discussion with me. And they're not just using it to solve their problems, they're using it to rewrite their letters before they send them to clients. They're using it for all sorts of areas of their business. And they're just scratching the surface, because the more they use it, the more they're going to use it. They start thinking, oh, I could use it for this. And they think, oh, I can use it for that. So right now, that's pretty narrow for how they're using it. But the fact that so many of my clients are already using it, they already see the benefit of it, is amazing. I mean, I'm blown away by that. The AI technology has not been as slow to be adopted as other. The other thing that's changed my career significantly is remote access. So when I first started, I would have to get in the car and drive to a customer location. And when I first started, it was still dial-up internet. And when DSL became available, which was the first that became available for us in the Phoenix area, I was an early adopter, but most people still didn't have it for at least a year to 2 or 3 years. And then DSL started to fade out and get replaced with Cox cable, or here it's Cox. It could be Time Warner, Roadrunner, Spectrum. I mean, it goes across the board, but you understand, cable internet became cheaper and more reliable and faster than DSL. And eventually people were upgrading to that. And now we started having much faster connections. When we started getting those faster connections, I would set up a program called RealVNC to connect to a main computer. I wouldn't set it up on all the computers in an office, just a main one, because it required a static IP and port forwarding on the router. And most other techs had no idea what I was doing. Like, I was ahead of my time in that. But it didn't help me with everything. It helped me with that one computer. It helped me generally with the boss's computer. Everybody else could wait. And eventually, within a few years, and especially as more and more people were adopting broadband internet, and remember, people didn't have smartphones yet. What started happening is software like TeamViewer and software like, well, Instant House Call. All of these remote access programs started coming out. And all of a sudden now I didn't have to set a static IP address, and I didn't have to configure the router for port forwarding. You see, the irony of remote access back in the day was that you had to go on site to set it up. You couldn't do it remotely. Today we can do it remotely. Now, all of these steps, if you picture a staircase from me driving and dial-up and DSL and then cable internet, and then RealVNC, a specialty program that requires a static IP and port forwarding, a little technical, to then applications, and now we can do it without any software at all. And that's mind-blowing. I'm accustomed to either dealing with something that's free but limited. You know, programs like LogMe and Rescue, where they gave it away for a while and then they said, you got to pay for it now. What are you going to use? Programs like TeamViewer that would say, well, it's free except if we determine you're using it for business use. And they got real nasty about what they claimed to be business use without any evidence. It was just an accusation without any evidence. And it was a very expensive program. So obviously they want to make money. And if you can't use their program and you're not paying for it, they don't care. They made their attitude very clear that you're using it too much for free. And we're not going to finance whatever the heck you're doing. You're going to pay us for this. And then there was some pushback with regards to the open source community, offering things like ultraviewer.net. And now, of course, we have RustDesk and AnyDesk and lots of other alternatives. But they all eventually become paid for the most part. I mean, I think with RustDesk you can host your own, but you know, have your own relay servers and such. But eventually they're going to want some money. So the open source community works for free, but they usually get burned out after a few years and the project dies because no one wants to do it. Who wants to work for free? And a lot of times when they're working for free, they're doing it because it's solving a problem that no longer needs to be solved in a few years. So get a lot of abuse from the public, insulting your work, criticizing you, all taking what you're giving for free, demanding more, and insulting you. So it doesn't take long for most people to say, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. Or they'll do it for themselves privately and they won't release it to the public anymore because of the greed and abuse. So ultimately, most of these open source projects, if they're not funded in some way, are doomed to either have to start generating revenue and charging people, or you know, they have to start putting up a lot of pop-ups, advertising, some kind of marketing or spying, because all of this is costing somebody some money, right? This money for the servers, the money for the distribution, and plus somebody's time. And people don't seem to appreciate that. They just think things exist. And a lot of people don't really have any appreciation for the time and effort and sacrifice that somebody made, so you don't have to. So that works for a period of time. And anything that you're using that's a free service now, whatever it happens to be that's free, it probably won't remain free in the next 4 or 5 years. It'll probably be shut down or filled with some kind of advertising, or or it just goes away. It just gets abandoned. We remember Winamp, what a great program. It's still out there somewhere, but it hasn't had the development of something like VLC. OBS is the program I use for streaming. That's all open source, but it's very slow development. And they get a lot of great financing through sponsorships from NVIDIA, another like Elgato, companies that make streaming hardware. It's in their best interest to make sure OBS stays alive. But for remote access, nobody's got any interest in that, right? There's no money in it from a keyboard manufacturer, let's say, or a PC manufacturer. So you're on your own when it comes to this. I was paying at one point $600 a year for TeamViewer. Even when I was getting it cheap, I was paying about $20 a month. So these, you buy these once and you use it forever and you never pay another penny ever. You can use them to control computers locally here in the building, or we can use them to control any computer anywhere in the world. Now, yes, going back to the irony of having to go on location to set up remote, this does require 2 cables being plugged into the computer, a USB cable and an HDMI cable. And then you plug it into the network. The second generation of these offer Wi-Fi, so one less cable. Once it's plugged in, you're good for life. That's it. So you can turn a computer on, turn it off. You can get in a BIOS. I can do all the things I couldn't even do with regular remote access software because that requires Windows. So until Windows loads, I can't use the software. If somebody's having a blue screen every single time their computer starts, something like this will show me exactly what they're seeing. I can see the blue screen. I can even boot off virtual ISO images for repairing that Windows install or reinstalling Windows entirely, just like you would do with a program like Ventoy. If you can understand why this makes me so excited, it also changes the way I work in the sense that one of my very first jobs fixing computers In fact, the first few I had, it was traditional to have a long bench, and the bench would have a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse for every computer you're working on. Working an 8-hour day at a company, they're keeping me busy. They don't want me sitting around waiting for, you know, a computer to finish a virus scan or something, so they expect you to work on multiple computers at the same time. The problem with that is every computer needs a keyboard, a mouse, and a monitor. And there's only so many you can fit on the desk, and there's only so much room the company's going to give you to work. Today, we could just simply plug one of these boxes in to each of those computers and just have one master computer that doesn't even have to be in the same room. And just open up a browser tab for every one of those computers, and we can keep an eye on progress. And you know, when something needs a restart or something needs our attention, we'll see that in the tab, and we can just go through there just like a website, control that computer, and that computer could be anywhere in the world. It just so happens that if you're a tech and you're working on multiple machines at the same time, you can now have even more machines when you don't have to have room for the keyboard, the mouse, and the monitor. Now, when it comes to just basic plain old computer doesn't work, I still have to have the computer in front of me. I still need a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse to diagnose, you know, is it to do the work, the physical, change the RAM or inspect the motherboard. That still requires me being there in front of it. But once that part of it is done, and now it's time to reinstall Windows or check the drivers or do the disk cleanup or, you know, all the different settings, changes, and modifications that I make, install the customer's software, I don't have to stand there in front of it the whole time. And while it's working, when I say, well, go ahead and install Microsoft Office, that's going to be 20 minutes. I'm going to just click the browser tab, go to the next computer. Now do Windows updates on this one, click the next one. Okay, do a scan of malware on this one. And now I've got 4 computers all running simultaneously while I've been sitting at my desk in another room, potentially, and I haven't gotten out of my chair. And the cost for this is just the cost of these units. That's it. There's no further expense, no subscriptions, never, ever, ever. Now, like anything electronic, it's possible it could die one day. These haven't been out long enough to determine how long they're expected to last, but I would guess somewhere around 70 years. Most modern electronics today, unless it's involved in a really tough environment with temperature or humidity, or it's spilled on, or basically all electronics today, the way that they're built and designed, have an average lifespan of about 70 years. That doesn't make it exempt from power spikes and things that can prematurely cause devices to fail. Like, you can eat healthy and exercise, but you can still get hit by a bus. That doesn't mean there was anything wrong with you, other than maybe you didn't look both ways. I don't know. The point that I'm trying to make, though, is that you would probably upgrade these because of this pace of evolution long before one would ever go bad. Why would you upgrade it? Well, it's hard to say because they haven't been invented, the 3rd generation, 4th generation, 5th generation. I promise you they're coming. But how are they going to change? Will these ever be built into a system as an option that you can flip on and flip off right onto a motherboard? They've already sort of had that for a long time. And you typically find that in the business class computers. I keep letting consumers know you make up less than 1/5 of the computers in the world. Far less. So when consumers say, oh, Windows 11 is crap, I don't know why anyone uses it, you sound like somebody that doesn't have a job. Because I never got the choice of what computer or what chair I was going to sit in or what keyboard I was going to use. And I don't believe you will today. If you go out and you get a job, you likely are going to go to an office building somewhere. Could be a big company, could be a little tiny company. You are likely going to sit in the chair that's there, you're going to use the keyboard that's there, and you're going to use the computer they provide for you. In exchange, they're going to pay you some money. You don't get to pick your chair in most cases. You don't get to pick your desk. You don't get to pick your keyboard, your mouse, your monitor, your computer, or your operating system. You're here to work. Now, when you go home and you want to spend that money you've earned, and you don't want to buy Windows and you don't want to buy that chair, that's your home individual preferences for you as an individual. But when you look at the world as a whole, the most common operating system in use in the world is Windows 11, which by its very default makes certain people automatically hate it, because nothing that popular can be good. There's an old expression, Yogi Berra he was asked about a restaurant that they were really known for going to. And this reporter said, hey, you guys still go to that restaurant? And Yogi Berra very famously said, that restaurant got so popular, nobody goes there anymore. Right? It's that individual mentality that everybody's going there, so he's not going there, and the people he knows don't go there because it got too popular. So, but the way it came out was, it's so popular, nobody goes there anymore. Those two things don't make any sense. So when anybody says Windows 11 is terrible, they're just telling you their own individual opinion that does not represent that of the majority of the world. It's like it's denial. It's like, there it is. For better or for worse, that's the way it is. If it rains all the time and you don't like it, move. You're not going to control the rain because you don't like it. You can choose to live somewhere else. So there's a lot of talking and not a lot of doing on the internet. And I want you to be aware of it when you see it, because what you're going to see mostly on the internet are consumers. They're the ones who have the time, many of whom don't have jobs, and they spend a lot of time on the internet with their opinions that are disconnected from the reality around them because they're not connected with the population anymore. The bulk of the population is going to be working. They're going to have a job. And when they get back from the job, the last thing they want to do is engage in a long discussion on Reddit over the usability of an operating system, because it's not their choice. They do what the company requires them to do unless they don't want to get a paycheck anymore. It's not an option. It's not even worth talking about. So keep that in mind when you're reading through comments online. Some people get it, some people don't get it. Some people just live in a bubble, a lot of people, and have no respect or courtesy for anybody who lives outside of their bubble. Those people are very often found in forums like Reddit and online, because where else are they going to go? They don't communicate in the way most of us do. So what I try and do on these videos is I try to virtualize reality, in the sense that many of us could not be together right now because of the distances that we have, but we all share an enthusiasm or an interest in computers and technology. But one of the reasons I'm not writing a blog is I'm trying to connect with people on a human way. I'm not trying to replace myself with AI and trick you into thinking you're watching Carey, because I can emulate myself and my voice, and I can even give it some subject matter, and it might even do a better job than me. But that's not who I am. So you might prefer the AI over me, but that's your preference, not mine. This is what life is about. It's about real life interaction with human beings, not about being pen pals and reading each other's blogs. And again, with pre-recorded videos that have been edited, we are contriving, we're manipulating the content we want you to see. As content creators, we have the ability, and far more content creators choose this, which is to manipulate the information so as to cut out all the fat and just give you all of the middle part without any of the nuance. And as a result, it's sort of like the junk food of information online. Not only is much of it false, a lot of it's misrepresentation. Some of it's just flat out deceiving intentionally. What I'm trying to do is build a virtual community that is otherwise like any other community, where we're all together. We used to go to computer clubs back in the 1990s, 1980s. And so few people owned Atari computers that we would find each other on bulletin board systems and such and agree once a month we're going to meet at somebody's house. And that's how it was. And I'm trying to recreate that without having to get in the car and driving. So think of it as like a remote. What we're doing now is what this is doing for computers. being able to communicate with it in the same way as though I were sitting in front of it without any limitations, like having to be in the Windows first, is like what I'm doing right now with all of you. We're all hanging out, we're live, we can talk back and forth to each other, no differently than if we were in person. So if you wonder why I'm so enthralled with these, it is the second best thing to being there. I say that because it would be far more preferential for me to have all of you in the same room together. Physically, in front of me, I can sense the energy and the vibe. I can't do that online. So there's still a minor disconnect, but boy, it's awfully close. And in much the same way, these little boxes, they take away the control of the companies that want to raise your rates or charge you at all. And you buy these for, you know, in most cases under $100 or near around 100, and you're good for the life of the unit, which, as I mentioned, could be 70 years. Now, my ability to work on machines, multiple machines, has significantly improved my efficiency because I can set them up downstairs here at the studio when I'm not filming, and I can go upstairs where the administration computer is that I use for emails and you know, all the other computer related things that sometimes I edit some videos for, like Amazon and stuff like that, where they have to be essentially commercials. Otherwise Amazon won't allow it. So I do some editing, but I don't put that on social media. I don't consider Amazon to be social media. That being said, last night, for example, there were 2 computers here that I built that have been sitting, and I thought I'd fire them up because it's been a while, and they both needed BIOS updates. They're both nothing similar between the 2 of them, by the way. They were missing Windows updates. I wanted to run the new Windows 11 optimizer on them. And all I have to do is pick the computer up, put it on the desk, plug one of these KVMs in, plug the computer in, and plug the internet in. That's it. So I'm using 4 wires, basically. Plus this needs an internet cable, so that's 5 wires. Turn the machine on, and then I go upstairs. And whatever I'm doing up there, if I'm watching YouTube videos, if I'm answering emails, I open a browser tab, no software required, and I go through the process of the maintenance on those computers. Now, clearly, I can't blow the dust out of them, right? That would require me to be there, and I would have my little air gun or whatever, my leaf blower. So it doesn't completely eliminate being there. But the fact is, I can connect to a computer remotely multiple times a year for a customer. We're only blowing dust out of a computer once every year or 2 for most customers. Sometimes not even that often. So when something's that infrequent, being able to do it remotely, even if I could, wouldn't really be beneficial by much. So everything that I do most often is now being done more reliably, more inexpensively, and puts it more into my control rather than a third-party company. You know, let's say LogMeIn decides to raise their rates or to shut their service down. What do I do? You understand? So for something like this, I always have a backup plan if that's needed. So why are we looking at them again? They've been updated already since the last we spoke. For example, the Nano KVM Pro has had about 15 updates since we first got it. Now this is fantastic because that's telling us they are working hard on this, tirelessly improving, and they're not making us wait. You know, as soon as they feel like they've got an improvement down, they release it, then they work on the next thing. Other companies may wait until they have a bunch of improvements, and then it's 2 months, and then the update's massive, right? It's going to change so much. It may be overwhelming to figure out everything that's changed. I much appreciate the way Cyped, the company that makes the Nano KVM Pro, has been releasing the updates about every 2 to 3 weeks on this since we got it. The JetKVM was a big frustration for me because when President Trump introduced tariffs, they said they don't want to do business in the United States anymore. And I said, that's a shame. You got a good product. It's just terrible people that want to get politics into technology, which is pick a lane. If you want to be a politician, go be a politician. If you're running a company, your goal should be to sell as much product as possible. Period. Done. Anything other than that, you shouldn't be running a company, or you likely won't be. Well, these are back for sale again over at JetKVM.com, and this is sort of the original. Well, I'd say the original Nano KVM probably kicked it off, but this one got all the social media attention, and a bit more expensive, but also a bit more powerful. Then this very recent model called a Pico KVM runs the same software as the JetKVM. This is open source. All of these run open source software as far as I know, including GeoLinet's Comet, which you don't really see me bring out here very often because I don't care for it. It requires 4 cables just all by itself, and that's just too many cables. Everybody else can do it with 3 or even 2, but they do have the Comet Pro coming out. We should get one in about 2 weeks, hopefully, and it'll be a brand new product. I'm sure it'll be a little rough around the edges, and no sooner than I get it, I'd say within a week after I receive my pre-order, which I ordered 4 months ago. Well, it'll be 4 months. You'll be able to order it on Amazon within a week of that. So it's not like we're getting it much earlier. As soon as that company can sell them, the first thing they do is they go to manufacturing. The second thing they do is send all the units to their Kickstarters to fulfill their obligations. And the third thing they do is put it online on Amazon and other retail sites, including their own website, and start shipping them, you know, once those pre-orders are all shipped. There's no delay in getting it out to retail. So to be first, you're only going to be first for about a week. Wait 4 months to back a product that finally gets sent out. And then within a week of you receiving it, it's already available at Amazon or other retail sites. So you're not going to be first for very long. However, if you want to support a project, you want to make sure that they have the funding that they need to see that to completion. That's really what it's about as far as Kickstarter goes. Let me take a quick look in the chat before we get anywhere today, anywhere with these, and see what's on your mind. LRCX says the milestone link won't let us add a comment. What is a milestone? LRCX, now a member for 30 months. Thank you for renewing your membership here. That's Larry. I think the milestones, if you're referring to membership, are when the number changes. So in another 6 months, when you're at 36 months, that'll be a milestone. I don't think 30, because again, you see the number 24, so that number will change to a 36, and it'll change again to 48. Those are your big milestones where the number changes. If that's what we're talking about, I don't know. And if it's anything to do with membership, it's all YouTube's control. I have no control over it as far as how it behaves, or basically YouTube has these rules in place that YouTube and only YouTube can control, and we just have to operate within the boundaries of that. Find me in Hawaii. That's Ken. Contributes, renews membership, now a member for 38 months. That's what my shirt's all about. Loco Moco. That's a hearty, inexpensive Hawaiian breakfast. Not a place, it's a food. Well, look it up. All right, let's see. Mark Leibowitz says hello from Chicago. B. Tantlinger says, why use those when there is RustDesk? Hey, RustDesk is great. It's great software. But how do I get into a BIOS and turn on Secure Boot or turn on TPM or update the BIOS? How do I boot from an ISO image of, say, memtest and see the results on the screen with RustDesk? So RustDesk is great when you're already in Windows, but if you want to do anything outside of Windows, you're going to have to go to the customer's location or get to the physically be in front of the computer. So that's why. I just keep thinking of that. Because it's different, that's why. Thanks for the explanation. Frank Jimmy said he picked up an Epson EcoTank ET5850 printer for $650. It's normally $850. The ink for my HP PageWide 577 went up to $200 each, which would cost me $800 to replace 4 ink cartridges. No thanks. There's a comedian, if you want to look him up on YouTube. His name is Dan McMillan, and Don McMillan. Hold on, I'm going to tell you right now. Let me look it up. And he has a comedy routine. Everything he does is engineering based. He has a comedy routine on the equivalent cost of printer ink compared to everything else we buy in life. In fact, he proposed that if he simply took an IV from one of his veins and sent it over to the inkjet cartridge, it would be much cheaper printing in blood by about $10,000 per gram. Like it's insane what companies charge for ink. Canon's a much better way to go. And what's even more insulting is if you ever get one of those ink cartridges brand new and crack it open, you may find it's only 20% full. There's some YouTube videos that show that as well. So you don't have to actually go and crack yours open. You can just look at the YouTube videos. HP is one of the worst offenders on that. Now, if we look at, here's my window capture. There's my guy. Yeah, Don McMillan. And probably, why is printer ink so expensive? And I strongly recommend you watch it. This guy is hilarious. And look, our group here, we're all a bunch of technical kind of engineering types, aren't we? Analytical minds. This guy is one of us. And he likes to use PowerPoint for his jokes, which is hilarious. So if you haven't seen him before, check him out when you want a good laugh. And it's very relatable. Everything he's talking about, you'll be like, I never thought of that before, you know. And it's funny because it's true. But yeah, I recommend the Epsons because their ink is much more affordable and you do get more ink for the money than HP. Bikeman said years ago his father tried to run a home-based business and the person that was giving him instructions on what to do wanted free computer advice in Yellow Pages, got calls all the time with questions. Yeah. Well, I think the logic back in the day was you offer people free samples, right? Some companies still do that. You go to Costco and they'll have like a person standing at a desk offering free samples of something they're selling at Costco. But a lot of times what they're selling is pretty expensive. It's not like you're buying a little tiny quantity at Costco. You're going to be, whatever it is, you're going to buy a big old bag of it or a big old can. The problem is if you're going to offer, hey, free support questions, the logic is the customer's going to call you for that free question and you're going to convert that into a sale. You have no intention of answering their question. Many lawyers are famous for doing this. Well, they'll say, you know, call us for free. Call us if you get into a car accident for free legal advice. And then you call them and their legal advice is you should hire us because we can't answer the complexity of this legal scenario without doing a little research. So you give us a down payment, we can research it and see if you have a case. So you give them like $500 and then they call you back in 5 minutes and go, no, nothing we can do. No case here. You don't get your $500 back. And they could have told you that on the phone, but that's just not the way it works. So the idea is, if you're running a business and somebody's telling you you should be giving away free samples, what they're really telling you is, this is going to get you, this is going to separate out the general public from those looking for computer help. Once you identify who needs computer help, free or otherwise, it's your job now to convince them, to hard sell them, to convince them to buy your product, to utilize your services. Do not provide them the answer. Or you put a time limit on it. You say, I'll be happy if it's a problem I can solve in 5 minutes or less, I'll do it for free. And as soon as that 5 minutes is up, just like a psychiatrist or a psychologist, sorry, your time is up. Anything further will require, this isn't a simple problem. We're going to have to put some time into it. We're not going to do that much time for free. We're going to give you this much time for free, and then after that, you have to pay. And, that does upset people sometimes, but you just need a couple for them to say okay, and it's all worth it. Even if you tick off 20 people, but you just made $500 today because one of those 20 people said okay, then that call us for free advice did work. But both people have to be on the same page, right? The person who says you need to put this in your ad also has to make it clear to you, the people who are going to call you for that free advice, it's on you now to twist that into a sale, not to actually help them with their problem. It's not really what you're there for. You're there to get the phone call from someone who's interested. If you walk onto a car dealership, there's only one reason you're there. So a car salesman is going to say, how can I help you? You say, I'm just looking. No, you're not. You're absolutely not looking. You're considering. You're looking for something. What is it? Let me help you find it. We have over 1,000 cars here on this lot. You'll be looking for a long time. You're looking for like a sedan, an SUV. I mean, I'm just trying to help you. Just tell me what sort of thing are you looking for, and let me take you to that section, or let me go find it in the back lot and bring it out to you. I am trying to help you here. Some people are like, no, just leave me alone. Okay. A good salesman will say, look, I'm going to be over here. I'll check in with you. I'll raise your hand or come see me. If you need anything, you're free to walk around. Usually, once people realize the scale of a lot of dealerships, they're like, I'm never going to find you. I don't think they've got it. So especially if the salesman sees you leaving without ever talking to them, they'll say, hey, did you find what you were looking for? Just trying to help you. You came here for something and you won't tell me what it is. Well, you don't have it. Well, how do you know we don't have it? We have a bunch of stuff that's not out here. We also own 2 other dealerships on the other side of town that we can bring stuff over. Just let me know what you're... All you have to do is tell me. But they're not grabbing random people off the sidewalk saying, you want to buy a car? Those people interested in buying a car showed up at your dealership. It's like a bakery that says, the smells are free. If you weren't hungry and you weren't interested, you wouldn't have walked into the bakery for the free smells, because that's only going to lead to one thing, buying something, right? What smells so good? Oh, we just have some fresh baked bread. Oh, can I say, yeah. Oh, I got to have some of this. That's how sales are made. It doesn't necessarily mean you're ripping anybody off or you're taking advantage of anybody. Sometimes people need a little, they can't make up their mind. They procrastinate and they hem and they haw, and they need somebody to sell them. And what will end up happening is, if you refuse to do that, somebody else will. So let's say that customer goes to that dealership, and that dealership, the guy says, leave me alone, I just want to look. They look, they say, can we help you find anything? And they say, no. Okay. They see the customer leaving. You go, hey, did you get the information you were looking for? Oh, you don't have it. Oh, we do have a lot more than what's on display here. If you don't mind, I'll look it up for you. It doesn't cost you anything. 5 minutes, just come on in. And if somebody's like, no, leave me alone, I don't want to be bothered. Okay, let me give you my card. If you change your mind, give me a call. It's the best thing you can do as a salesman. But when that person goes to the next dealership looking for the same thing he was looking for, and let's say that dealership doesn't have it in the back, it's out front, and he's looking at the price and he's looking at this and he's like, this is interesting, I want more information on this. then that customer's open to suggestion, right? And it's that salesman's job to make sure they satisfy whatever that customer is looking for. We've got it. And if we don't have it, we'll take enough money off of the price that it'll be worth it for you to give up whatever this, you wanted a certain color. We don't have that color, but everything else is perfect. Let's work on that price until that color looks good to you. That's how most cars are sold that way. People need to be sold. Most people, they think they're in control, but a salesman can make you want something you had no idea you wanted if they're really good at their job. There was an expression, something along the lines of, you know, selling ice to Eskimos, or telling you to go to hell in a way that you're looking forward to the trip. But in most cases, customers are very happy with their purchase. You know, whatever, it's a house, if it's a car, if it's a loaf of bread, there's very little buyer's remorse, statistically speaking. It's a system that works. So yeah, free advice requires not necessarily that you give free advice, but that you're encouraging people with computer problems to call you because you fix computer problems. Once you've identified somebody who needs a computer problem fixed, they're not like just talking to a stranger. Now you're talking to somebody who is exactly who you're looking for as a customer, and it's your job on that phone call to convert that person into a customer. That's it. But if that wasn't communicated and it was taken sincerely and honestly, yeah, that's going to put you out of business. If all you do is give out the free samples and you don't sell anything, you're going to run out of food of whatever the sample is, and you're just not going to have a business anymore. So the free something is there. It's the bait. When you go out and you go fishing, you're putting free fish food on a hook, right? And you cast your line out there, and you wait for your bobber to move. You're fishing. You're not looking for every fish in the lake or the ocean. You're looking for the one closest to you that's hungry. If the fish is already eaten, he's probably not interested in the bait on your hook. Jeff wants to know, are you going to start building computers again? Well, are you going to be ordering any computers from me, Jeff? Have I ever built a computer for you? Who have I been building these computers for? If you're not seeing computer builds, it's because people like you aren't ordering them. So I have no control over if somebody orders a computer for me or not. If you'd like to see that change, be a part of the change, we'd love to build a computer for you. And then we'll do it on camera, and there you go. You can manifest if that's what you want to see. You can make that happen. We have no opposition to that at all, and we have no control over supply and demand. So if you're seeing or failing to see certain items, it's because people aren't ordering those items. Your people, you could order something, and that's how this content is designed. It's not designed to be a commercial. So most of the content you're watching on YouTube are all disguised commercials or advertisements, promotions, or sponsorships made to look like they're educational videos. They're very deceptive. What we show here on this channel is very real. When I build a computer for this channel, that's going to a real customer. In most cases, we still have a number of computers that were built here in advance in anticipation of sales. So it wasn't always like that, though. When the buying started to slow down, we continued to build with the idea that somebody that wants to buy won't have to wait. It's already pretty much built, and we can just modify the CPU, RAM, or storage to whatever the needs are, even the power supply. Pretty easy to swap it out. All the hard work's done. And after we got a room full of computers, we said we have to stop. They average about $1,000 a piece. We've got over 30 or 40 of them. That's a lot of money worth of inventory just sitting here and depreciating. So we'll see if it picks back up again if people decide they want to order. But we haven't really told anybody no. So it's not like we're not building because we don't want to. Customers aren't ordering. It's just we have a lot more supply than we have demand right now. Just trying to catch up with comments here in the chat room. If anybody's got any questions, this is the best time to ask. Layla7240 in the chat says, I have a computer that has streaming issues. It starts out fine, but over time it buffers. The stream freezes and sound cuts in and out. My internet is 1 gig. Streaming doesn't require a whole lot with regards to internet. We'd have to know, is this a computer you built, or is this... I want you to think, when you're asking for technical advice, what really helps out the person you're asking is if you can identify what you're talking about. I have a car that won't start. Okay. Is that gas? Is it diesel? Is it a 4-cylinder? Is it an 8-cylinder? Is it a 6-cylinder? What's the make and model of the car? Did this problem just start, or has it been this way forever? When did the problem start? There's millions of varieties of computers out on the market, whether it's a laptop, a desktop, a mini PC, an HP, a Dell, something you built yourself with a variety of parts that no other computer on the planet is like. That may be the cause for your problem. Anything from a BIOS update to a driver issue to a setting. What operating system? Is it Windows 10? Is it Windows 11? Are you on a Mac? Are you using Linux? And how are you streaming? And what are you streaming? At what resolution are you streaming? So the best way to answer or to ask your question without waiting for an interrogation is you're going to know right out of the gate, no two computers are alike unless you bought a series of pre-manufactured machines. I have a Dell Inspiron 7840. Great, those are all pretty much the same. If it's something you built, you need to tell us what you built. I don't need to necessarily know the make and model of the motherboard yet, but I need to know, is it Intel, is it AMD? What's your operating system? What are you streaming? Where are you streaming it to? At what resolution? Are we streaming in 4K? Are we streaming in 1080? Are we streaming to YouTube, or are we streaming to Twitch? What are we streaming? Gaming? Or is it just you in front of a camera, like with a webcam? Or are you just using a capture card of some kind? Wouldn't it be great if we could just go to the doctor and say, can you fix me? And the doctor says, who are you? How old are you? What is it you want fixed? When did this problem start? What have you done so far to treat it? But it would be great, wouldn't it, though, if we just go to the doctor's office and say, I need you to fix me, and then give them no information about you at all. So if you do that, it helps us get to an answer faster so that we don't have to go through this entire discussion every single time. And it's just there not to belittle you, but to help you. Anytime you're asking anyone for computer help, we need to understand what a computer is, what the help is, and some examples, right? And with that, you can get to the answer a lot faster. Also, in our chat room, we have a lot of knowledgeable members in our community that can also help you besides myself. We love to help each other. You know, that's what we're here for. We enjoy it. In fact, there's a great video, as always, from our friend Doug Betts, who goes live every Saturday. And yesterday he did a live interaction with a real life customer. And if you're curious what it's like to be a tech and the kind of questions that need to be answered and the understanding of why you have to know that in order to be useful, at least useful to the customer, go watch his video. It took 3 hours to fix a 5-minute problem because you're just pulling teeth. It's difficult sometimes to get the information you need from the client, because what you're really looking for is the client's giving you, the client thinks they're giving you all the information in most cases, but quite often there's pieces missing. And when you can identify what the client's not telling you, that's the problem. And the sooner we can get to that, the sooner we, you get on with your life and we move on to the next customer. And that's tricky, because what we're really listening to is what part of the customer story is missing. If you watch Doug Betts' live Windows training with Doug Betts, Saturday show, yesterday's show, see if you can guess what the problem is based on the information the customer's telling Doug. And when it gets to the solution, see if you were right with your guess. Fun game. Gulu889 renewed membership, now a member for 35 months. Thank you for renewing your support here, Gulu. That must be a name change, because if you've been here for 35 months, I've never seen that name before. But we're certainly glad to have you back. And thank you again for continuing to support us here. David Graham says, looks like YouTube took away the free chat in members renew messages. I don't know if it was ever there, but it's a free chat. I don't know. I don't know what you mean by free. Were they charging for it before? Isn't the chat the chat? Does it make a difference? I'm confused. You're not able to say something unless you renew? I'm not getting that. Sam Lazar says he's going to a client's place to check out a laptop. I just reinstalled Windows 11. Keeps on crashing even after a reinstall. It's only a month or so old. I need Lenovo to give a replacement. Yeah, it sounds like bad RAM. And you shouldn't have to repair anything new. Everything new has a warranty. And the minute you try and repair it yourself, for whatever reason, it's a bad decision. Universally, it is not in your best interest to fix something yourself that's under warranty. Because if you fail at it, you could void the warranty in the process. If you hold the manufacturer accountable for what you paid for, don't get yourself involved. It isn't going to, there's a benefit for you potentially that you can fix it and have it back up and running faster. But then why did you pay for it? Why did you pay that much? You should have got a discount. So by principle, if you've paid for something in a company that you've given your money to, you're not going to hold accountable for any issues during the legal warranty period that was agreed upon at the sale. You're making a terrible decision. That's great for the company for you to do that, because you're giving the company every opportunity to no longer be held accountable for the warranty. Simply because you're impatient or because you insist, you're doing that to yourself. It's basically self-harm. I strongly advise when you buy a new product that has an issue, either return the product if you're still within your return period, like Amazon, for example. You have 30 days. Right now, you buy at Amazon, you got till the 1st of February. So you got 60 days. And that's because of the holiday, right? So if you were buying something from Amazon today, you give it as a gift on the holidays, then that person who receives it has 30 days to return it. So you have 60 days right now, and you don't even have to deal with the manufacturer. You can send anything back to Amazon if it's an Amazon Prime deal, or just look at the return policy before you buy it, and you don't have to tolerate that. Don't fix it yourself. Send it back. You can ask for an exchange. You can ask for a refund and go buy something else. You should not be fixing anything new yourself. If you do, it's like me saying you shouldn't be eating poison. I mean, if you do, that's on you. I wouldn't, and I wouldn't recommend it, but I cannot stop you from making bad decisions. So yes, at this point, if you've got a laptop, it's a month old and it's not working correctly, you definitely don't want to be opening that up and changing out RAM. You could run memtest on it just to verify, but regardless, even if you're just curious, you should not fix it, and you'll be tempted to if you know what's wrong with it. You go, oh, memtest is verifying what Carey said is bad RAM. It's pretty easy to swap that out. You could be voiding your customer's warranty if you do that. The best service you can do for yourself and your customers is exactly what you're doing. Make sure the company does authorized repairs. And unless you're authorized by the company to do repairs, stay out of it. Once you're out of warranty, different story, different rules. And Sam Lazar joins us from Melbourne, Australia. Wayne Ellison also joining us says hello. David Graham says there's a free super chat message for members only when they renew. Again, what difference does it make? I'm seeing your messages, whether they're super chats. I'm seeing your renewals, whether or not they have a message attached to them is irrelevant to me. I want you to be able to speak, to be heard, and it doesn't matter to me as a content creator if your message is coming through under a membership renewal or a super chat or just generically. The main thing is that you're able to communicate and it's not costing you something. So if you were able to leave a comment under a membership renewal as though it were a super chat, I've never noticed it in my life. The whole time I've been doing this YouTube channel, I've never noticed that. I have noticed when people are having issues being able to chat or when the browser's crashing, and I've certainly noticed super chats whether or not they contain a message. So for me, the way I see it, I never noticed it. I would read it aloud, but I also just read your message aloud. That's neither, just to prove my point. So I don't know, okay, I guess something's changed. I'll take your word for it. But I don't really see how that really changes anything. Interesting, I guess. But we certainly appreciate your memberships and your support. Okay, so getting on with these KVMs. The reason I brought this machine out is this is the machine I want to connect the KVM to. This machine has 2 wires plugged into it. I have an Ethernet to get it online, and I've got the power brick. That's it. This is what I love about the simplicity of all of this. Here we've got a Nano KVM Pro that I think we took out of the box and updated it a while back. I'm sure it's many updates behind. I want to grab the latest update, and I originally said the Nano KVM Pro wasn't ready for prime time and people shouldn't buy it yet. It's just too flaky. Since the updates, each update it gets a little better. Have they reached a point now where I can recommend it? That's what we're going to find out. So it's been, how many months have we had this now? We get it in August, September, December. Had it 3 or 4 months. And this is how it's packaged. They don't put any plastic bag around this here. And they include a USB-C to A cable. You can see everything's still brand new in there. And I think what I want to do is, rather than open up all these cables, because then I'll never put it all back in the box, I think I'm going to steal the cables. Let's just steal these. I think they're the same thing. HDMI and USB-C to A. On the back of the unit, if we go close up, we have 3 USB-C ports. And on the Nano KVM, for my intents and purposes, I just want to use that port all the way to the end. And HDMI, we want to use the HDMI that's all the way at the end as well. And the reason why this has 2 HDMI ports and the others don't is because this has a video loop out. These usually replace your computer monitor. You have your computer monitor or you have this, one or the other. With this will loop the video out of your computer into this and back out to your monitor if it's something that's important to you. If I'm in front of the computer that I can see the monitor, what the heck do I need this for? So the video loop out to me doesn't really make any sense. This will also convey a 4K signal, 4K video signal. I can't see 4K. It's the text and the fonts are too teeny tiny, so that's not important to me either. And while this does have a traditional Ethernet plug, it's also Wi-Fi. The rest of these are not Wi-Fi. This is a 2nd generation unit. So the 2nd generation Comet should also have the video loop out, 4K, and Wi-Fi, so that you can connect this 2 different ways. We can either plug a cable into it, or we can configure Wi-Fi on it. They did have some Wi-Fi issues right out of the gate, numerous Wi-Fi issues that look like they've all been resolved now. So let me grab an Ethernet cable that we can plug in over here. I want you to think of this as something like a Raspberry Pi. I want you to think of it as a tiny computer. We already know this is a computer, but unlike RustDesk, all the software we need to do everything is on this computer. And this computer will translate everything between the computer I'm connecting from and the computer I'm connecting to. So all I'm doing in reality is connecting to this. This is the computer we're connecting to. So now with our HDMI, I'm going to plug into the output here on the back of this unit for our HDMI video. And I don't need to use my capture card because we're going to connect to this computer here and see it through here. And because this computer is connecting us like a router or a NAS over the web, we don't need any software at all for any of this. We do need to provide it power, and we need to have the ability to send keyboard and mouse controls. So that's what this one USB-C cable, C to A, is going to give us power, and it's going to provide keyboard and mouse control. So I can use any USB port. Doesn't have to be a fast port. Looks like I only have USB 3 back here, which is fine. And then when I turn this unit on, we'll see the power comes on, and this will initialize, and it will get an IP address on display. In order for me to access this, I would open a browser and go to the IP address on display on the screen, and that will open up the monitor that this is essentially broadcasting to. So it doesn't matter if we're seeing a boot screen, it doesn't matter if we're seeing a Windows logo. If we're in the BIOS, we can do all of that from our browser, and I'm going to demonstrate that now. So we've got the time. That time is correct. We want to check a few things like updates on this. I don't know what version of the app this has because it's been a few weeks, and I know they've released several versions in that amount of time. So, very simple hookup. 3 cables plus Ethernet and power to the computer. I want internet access here on this computer, and I want internet access on this computer. If I configure the Wi-Fi on this, I won't need to hook up this 3rd cable, and now we're down to 4 cables in total, right? 4. Power, Ethernet. Oh, by the way, this could be Wi-Fi too. So it could just be power, and then video output. That's it. That's your entire configuration. Not exactly rocket science. So if I come back over here now, we'll go back to the widescreen. And let's open up a browser, and we'll share that browser screen with all of you. And if I type in the IP address, if I look at this, I tap the screen and it says my IP address is 192, and this is on my local area network. Okay, this isn't me getting access to it over the internet. That's a little bit more advanced, and we're not going to start with advanced. We're going to start with basic use. That is the IP address on the screen. Now, the very first time I connect to it, my browser's going to say this is an unknown site. Potentially it's unsafe. It says unsafe, but it's really potentially. Once we give it permission, we won't have to tell it again on this browser. So we'll click that, and we get to our login, where I always put in my same login here. And when it opens up, one of the first things you see in this browser tab, see there's all our browser tabs, and I just move over to this one. And do you notice there's two mice? The mice that leads is mine in my hand, and the one that follows is the one on the remote PC. And look how fast that trailing mouse catches up within milliseconds. So it's super, super quick. Now you see this blue dot right up here. Let me just check and make sure you guys are seeing everything. Yeah, you should be seeing it just the way I see it. Okay, so where was I? This blue dot next to the gear indicates there's an update available. So hit settings. It says we're using version 107. Okay. This is important because there was a 108, a 109, a 110, 111, 112. Where are we at right now? 124. Oh, it says we're at 118. Hold on a minute. Why does it say we're at 118? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. This is the image version. That's the operating system. And then this is the app on the operating system. We're on version 118. And when we check for updates, 5 new versions have since been released, 124. If you're not seeing 124, likely you don't have the preview updates turned on. If I turn that off, it's probably going to say it's version 123. Let's see. Oh no, it's still offering 124, so they must have finalized it. I always like to get the app updates early, so I always turn that box on. Updating this is very easy. So we're going to get 6 app updates. Everything is built. Everything in 124 contains every version before it. We'll hit confirm, and it'll download. And you'll see that download is pretty quick. And then it's going to install, and that install, again, we're not dealing with, you know, massively cumbersome programs. It's not GTA 6 or anything. And then once that's done, it'll need to restart the little remote computer, not the computer I'm connected to. The little box itself that's doing all this magic will need to restart for the software on this little magic box to take full effect. So you notice there's like a clock moving around. It's a great design. There's also a change log here. And if we click on the change log while we're waiting, it opens up this link here. And it tells us what they've done in all these versions since. Bug fixes, performance improvements, optimized for a faster startup time. These things were running really hot, these Nano KVM Pros. It was one of my complaints, is how hot it gets. And somebody got the idea to turn off the hardware encoding when it's not being used, when it's idle. Wouldn't you have thought it did that right out of the gate? Apparently not, and that's made a very big difference in how hot it's been running. They've optimized the Wi-Fi connection. It goes on and on and on. You can go all the way back to version 114. Okay, so we've had quite a number of updates. When was 114? October. 115 was October. 116 was October. 117 was October. 118 October. 119 October. That's a lot of updates in just 4 weeks. Then we get into November. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 updates in November. Are there going to be 5 more updates in December? Every update improves the product. I mean, at some point you're going to run out of things to improve, but I love the pace they're working at. If you want to know how can you stay on top of updates, like let's say you're like me and you keep this on a shelf and you only pull it out once every 2 or 3 weeks, you could just update it when you go to use it. But if you're also like me and you have a little bit of OCD and there's an update, you want it updated before you need it, you can monitor this website right here. How would you do that? Well, for example, we could go to changedetection.com and they will let you monitor up to 3 websites for free. Anything more than that, you're going to have to pay. And basically, you put in the name of a web page right here. So we could say this changelog page. We'll Control-C and then Control-V that and hit go. And it's going to take a picture of that page. That's what it's doing right now. And you can tell AI what you want it to monitor. I am a simple guy. I just want to know if there's any changes. I don't care what they are. So we just go back old school and say, I want any changes. A new version or change is added to the change. Oh, see, that's AI. I don't want to use AI. Here, no AI used, just any changes. That's what I want. How often do I want it to check? I think once a day. You could check every hour. Once a day is plenty. And then where do I want it to send an alert? So I put my email address in. This is how I can be aware that new updates have been available when I'm not, when the unit's sitting on a shelf somewhere and I want to get an early look at those changes and put that latest version on. So that's a little secret I'm sharing with you there. So with that, this should have restarted by now. Let me get back over. It did, because that's why it wants us to log back in. Okay, so now the blue dot is gone. We're on version 1.2.4. And we check for updates. It should say we're up to date. Yep. They've added some improvements in here. This still looks like it's got doing good on the time. That's all working. You see the front of the unit. Yep, time is working. If you ever run into an issue with these KVMs, you can either wait for the next update or you can reset the KVM by reinstalling the original image back on it. Sometimes during the updates, the data can get corrupted. And so you may end up with a problem that they could fix in another update if you're patient. But if you just reflash the image, you would do that by going to the documentation, go under the KVM Pro here, under the FAQ, and there will be instructions on how you can reset the unit and put the image back on it. So right here, image burning methods. You can follow these steps to completely reset and just verify if the problem still exists. One of the things I noticed they added here was some information I didn't see before, which is underneath the rubber feet, they've got 4 screws, and apparently some units went out missing that screw right there in the upper left, if the knob is to your right. And people are saying, why is that screw missing? Well, apparently in the first batch, the very first units they sent out, this screw was bottoming out against something behind it inside of the unit, and it was found to affect Wi-Fi connection stability, what they're calling structural design consideration. So they left that screw hole intentionally empty in later assemblies. If you are having any issues with your Nano KVM's Wi-Fi and you're running the latest version, you could try just peeling. You don't have to remove the rubber foot. Just peel it back about halfway. Get that top left position screw out and see, just out of curiosity, if it solves any Wi-Fi issues. I just stumbled on this information. I did not know this was a thing. And to the best of my knowledge, all of the Nano KVMs that I have, the Nano KVM Pros, all have 4 screws and all their Wi-Fi works fine. I'm not sure who this is for, but I bring it to your attention because it might be for you. I don't know. I don't see any harm in taking that screw out. As long as you got the other 3 in there, it's not going to fall apart on you.
The question is, did they fix it in later units? I mean, they're saying the screw hole is intentionally left empty in later assemblies, which tells me they did not address this issue. And this is part of being first, right? They find out after they ship it, that screw's an issue. And because these have already been machined and manufactured, you have to wait for like another version of the hardware to come out for them to address this engineering structural problem. So, this is the joy of being first. And there's some fun in that and excitement. Tail scale is what we set up if we want to have access to this unit from anywhere in the world. Tail scale is free using WireGuard, and it's all VPN and 100% secure, and you bind this unit to your tail scale account on GitHub for free, and you can access this little computer. This little Nano KVM is a tiny computer from any internet connected device anywhere in the world, whether it's your cell phone, a tablet, Linux, Mac, it doesn't matter. You're going to open it like a web page, and you'll have to log in on the computer you're wanting to connect from to your tail scale account, and it'll show you any connected devices that are binded or bound to your account. This keeps everything secure, and it's free. Now for me, I'm using this in the building. I'm not using this outside of the building. But what's great about this, let's say we want to get in the BIOS. So here's something you can't do with RustDesk or any other piece of remote software. I hit restart, and it says restarting. And if I want to, I can pull this virtual keyboard up. Okay, so when the computer restarts, we're going to get the options that appear on the screen before Windows loads, like pressing delete to enter the BIOS. So in just a moment here, we should see that right there. And now try doing this in RustDesk. Now we're in the BIOS. We can make changes to whatever we want to change. We can update the BIOS. We can even change what we're booting to. We can throw an ISO image on this little mini computer here, this Nano KVM Pro, which is an ISO image of Windows 11 installation, and start installing Windows as though we were loading from a DVD. Same is true with any other piece of software. We could load Memtest 86, just like Ventoy would do. If you're familiar with Ventoy, it's all built into this little computer. Once we've done our changes in the BIOS, just as though we were right in front of the computer in real life, we can go back to booting, and it looks, you're not going to see this in any piece of remote software in Windows because Windows has to load first. So what if you need to do something outside of Windows remotely? You can't. Well, now you can. And furthermore, this is all free. You pay for it once, and all the use of it is free for life. Now, once I'm in here, of course, once I'm in Windows, I could use RustDesk. Of course I can. But this will do everything RustDesk does without requiring any software. And this will do things RustDesk can't do, like what I just demonstrated. When we look up here, you'll see there's like a little picture of a disk. That's where you can load images onto the machine. You can have multiple images as much as your memory can hold. You can put an SD card in here of any size you want. You could load every ISO image you have that'll fit on your SD card all at the same time, and then you can just pick which one you want to mount one at a time, just like Ventoy. Then when you restart your computer, you instruct it to restart. In the BIOS, you can do the boot override and say to mount to the, or boot from the virtual D drive or your virtual E drive that wasn't there a moment ago. That's being emulated by this little tiny computer. But you're not physically installing and removing CDs and DVDs and Blu-rays anymore. It's all happening virtually and remotely. So if the image that I need, I haven't got on there yet, I can upload it. It's slow to get it uploaded, but it's still faster than me getting in the car and driving over there. Now, as we move on from the next generation and the next generation of KVMs, I'm sure the speed will get better and better with that regard, but I barely even use these functions. This also will transmit video, audio, if you, for some reason, wanted audio from a remote machine. If you're having issues with your screen display, they have customized what's called the ED identifier, EDID, where you can manually control the resolution if you're having some compatibility issues. You can control the quality if you're having internet connection issues, but this doesn't take much for internet. And this is all just basically the quality of your connection controlled here. We don't copy and paste text, so if I open up Notepad, I can type in Notepad. Right? But what if I want to copy a bunch of text? So if I go down here and I say, I want to copy a bunch of text, and I Control-C that on my local machine, which I guess you guys can't see. And then I try to hit paste. Paste is not an option because I didn't Control-C into the buffer of the remote computer. I only Control-C'd into my own computer, into the computer I'm remoting from, my streamer. So with RustDesk or a piece of software running in Windows, it can capture that. Instead, the way that we would handle it is we would go up here and we would emulate all of those keystrokes by hitting paste. And it says, what is it you want to paste? Now I can paste and hit submit. It'll type it out. I suppose I have to tell it where I want it to type out. So select where you want it to go, then go to paste, and then Control-V to paste your text and submit it, and it types it out for you. I mean, it's different, but I don't see that as a bad thing. It's just different. The convenience of Control-C and Control-V when you're using a piece of remote software is a nice convenience, but it's not that big of a deal to come up here and add one more step. And that's how it's handled because you're not connected via software. You would need software to be able to do that. There's no software involved here. We're only in a browser. You got to remember, we're in a browser. Every internet connected computer has a browser. And if it has a browser, this works. It's that easy. So you could also do scripting if you're repeating control commands on a number of machines over and over again. The Smart Assistant, I think, is a waste of time, but you know, maybe just early. This is how you get into terminal if you're into the getting behind the curtain and working behind the curtain of the inner workings of the unit. Wake on LAN can turn a computer on that's off by waking it up through the LAN connection. So if your computer supports Wake on LAN, which most computers built within the last 8 years do, you can shut this computer off when you're done with it. And then when you want to wake it up, you would just go up here and enter the MAC address of the computer you want. So the MAC address is like a serial number that's unique to every network card, Wi-Fi or wired or wireless. And once you enter that MAC address, it'll ask if you want to save it in your phone book. That way you don't have to enter it every time. So I could give it a name and say, you know, give this computer a name. And so I could, in theory, wake up any computer on this network if I knew its MAC address. But I can only see the one I'm connected to. And that's a physical way of turning the machine on. I'm not sure about all the other changes here in the menuing system that this latest version of the app has included. I mean, the Sync Now button wasn't here before. What's under Advanced? Oh, you can now set a static IP address. As far as I know, you cannot set a static IP address on like a JetKVM or the Pico KVM. Those are the other units I have on the desk. But instead, you would set a static IP address on your router that say, when this device, when the JetKVM connects to the router identifies it and sends the static IP address. That's how we traditionally do that. We do it on the router side. That way we have some control of understanding what IP addresses we've set for devices that aren't on. If we don't have it set in the router, how do we know we're not setting an IP address we've already used on a device that's currently powered off? Eventually, when that device gets powered back on, you're going to have an IP address conflict. It'd be like if you and I had the same phone number, whose phone's going to ring if somebody calls it? Maybe I got your number because your phone was turned off. So the phone company thought that number's available and they gave it to me. Now both of our phones are on at the same time. And when a phone call comes into that number, either your phone or my phone's going to ring, or neither one of them's going to ring. Well, that's how an IP address works. So enabling a static IP on the device itself is generally considered a bad practice. You definitely want to do that on the router side. But I'm also a fan of having options. Whether or not I choose to make that choice is my decision. If I want to make a bad decision, they're going to let me do it. JetKVM doesn't allow it, and the Pico KVM that uses basically the JetKVM software also does not allow it. That's not to say they're never going to. They're still upgrading their apps, and if enough people request it, they'll honor that request. Everything you need to know as far as documentation is all going to be online. None of these include any written documentation. Everything's online. They have, you can follow them on X if you want the latest updates from the manufacturer's SciPed. They have a Discord server, the FAQ, all of that's here. And they have a whole nother operating system you can switch to. So if we hit switch to PicoKVM, what it does is like having a dual boot system. If you think of the Nano KVM software as Windows and PicoKVM software as Linux, and when you turn your computer on, it says, do you want to boot to Windows or do you want to boot to Linux? You understand this concept, right? Pretty easy to understand. So PicoKVM is an alternate software that ultimately the Nano KVM software is based on. And in some ways, the PicoKVM software is much more versatile, but that also makes it much more complex. So if you're like the technical type, you might prefer the more complex. And if you're more of the average user, or you're like me, you like to keep things simple, avoid PicoKVM. But just to load it and show you, it says, are you sure you want to switch? And I hit confirm. And so what it's doing is it's restarting the computer. And instead of starting the previous software, it's starting the PicoKVM software, which has a completely different login. And I think the default login is admin and admin. And as far as I know, there's no way to change it. So even that's not done yet. Now, when we log in, we have the control of the KVM, the terminal, which is the programming behind the curtain, VNC, IPMI, for those of you that are, again, more technical, or just log out. So I'm going to go to the KVM, and it's going to bring up our desktop in the browser. We're still in Google Chrome, could be Edge, could be any browser on any internet-connected device. Ultimately, it pretty much looks the same, but your options and menus are a little different. And as I mentioned, I don't see anywhere in here to change the password. So you're probably going to have to go behind the curtain and enter some arcane Linux commands, which I think is profoundly stupid. It's one of the most important things you can do is set that password, and yet you've got to know what you're doing to understand how to even do it. Now, the Nano KVM software forces you to do it before you can even use the device. It says you have to set a password. Here, it just says admin, admin, and there's nothing saying, hey, you should change this, nor is there any button to click to change it. Or if there is, I haven't found it. It's not obvious. It's not conspicuous. But this is what happens when we deal with open source software. People who work on open source software are technical people, and they're writing it for other technical people. And the folks at SciPed with the Nano KVM said, we need to make this more approachable for people that aren't this technical. I'm a non-technical tech person. My goal is to keep things as human as possible and to remove a lot of the complexity that is there for no good reason that I can determine. Sometimes tech people do things because they think it's cool. But why? Because it was cool. Okay, that's all well and good if you're a teenager and you're playing around or it's a hobby, but I'm trying to get work done. So for me, this is a complete waste of time. Again, for me, I also will tell you I like having options. I don't see any downside to having PicoKVM. I just don't use it. But if I ever want it, it's there. It's like a spare tire in my trunk. I may never ever use that spare tire. And if I really hate it, I can take it out of the car. Or I could just leave it and say, well, you know, just in case of emergency, I know I've got that spare tire back there, and just leave it there for peace of mind. So for me, this is like a backup remote software should I have some issues, probably compatibility issues. And if we want to switch back, sorry, I was trying to switch back while I was talking and I lost my train of thought here. If we want to switch back over to the Nano KVM software, we need to restart and reboot again. We would go to switch to Nano KVM, switch now, click OK. And again, it's going to power itself off. It's going to reboot, and it's going to take us back into the original software we were in, which is my personal preference because it's simplified and it's not quite done yet. We still see some issues with it, but it's really, really improved since the last time we looked at it. Let me jump over to the chat room while we're waiting here for this to reboot and see if anybody has any experience they want to share if you have a KVM or a Nano KVM. If you've noticed any improvements or have any problems. Gary Tatum renewed membership. Now a member for 42 months. And, oh, I see. He's left a message that says it seems to be working fine for me. Okay, interesting. Well, you know, I don't know what YouTube's doing. It's interesting. And he says my Nano KVM uses Wi-Fi. I've got another unit here we can plug in that's on Wi-Fi. Andy mentioned his, since he got the latest version, the 124, that the clock stopped working. Mark Gaines, who's been struggling with an RGB fancy over-the-top all-in-one liquid cooler for his CPU, is now having to replace it for the third time. He started with a Trikes cooler, sold it off to a friend to get the Cooler Master cooler that's compatible with his fan controllers. So he has one piece of software to control RGB. Screen went wonky. Corsair said they'd replace it for him. So we had to disassemble it. Corsair sent him another one, reinstalled it, and he's back to the same, you know, it works for a while, then the screen goes all wonky and it doesn't work. And Mark is saying that he's done with it. He's just sending it back for a full refund. It's a silly thing. I mean, look, when you see a computer that's all lit up in RGB, it's pretty. Maybe you have a fish tank. It's pretty. I don't want to maintain your fish tank. I don't want to feed the fish. I don't want to check the alkaline balance and water temperature and all the work that goes into having a fish tank. You might not think it's work. You might enjoy it. I will let you do the work and I will enjoy your fish tank, but I can only see it when I'm over at your house. That's what RGB is like on a computer. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of work. And only you really get to enjoy it. So if it's worth it to you, have at it. But for me as a working technician, I don't need those support calls. You know, we're happy to help you here in the chat if you have any problems, but I don't want customers calling me saying, hey, I can't get the screen to work on my cooler, because more than likely they're not going to pay me $125 an hour to fix that. It's not worth it. If it ever happens, I'll let you know. But you know, we've got the internet, we've got AI, and these days those type of calls, even if they could come in, which they wouldn't, even more so wouldn't come in today. At some point, something that you found was fun and entertaining starts to become a burden. And we all go through this. When I'm trying to think of, you think of a celebrity, and the celebrity is so grateful that they've got all these fans that love them, and the bigger the celebrity gets, the more people hate them. So now you went from I'm so grateful to be a celebrity to I wish people would just leave me the hell alone. And people go, that guy's a jerk. Because their attitude has changed when you're constantly having to defend yourself, right? Some people say, for example, if you go back in this channel here and you look at the videos I was doing in 2012, 2017, even go back to the beginning, 2009, they say, oh, I like those videos, you were happier then. Rest assured, I'm happy today, but while I make videos now, I am routinely attacked. You guys don't often see that. And I'm attacked after the videos. I wake up in the morning and I've got more attacks waiting for me in email or comments just for no reason. Just some random stranger wants to attack me. And day after day, week after week, it starts to erode what was once something that was, 100% fun. No downsides. Now it's 80% fun. And the bigger and more popular you get, the less fun it becomes, because now people start depending on you, they expect from you. And if they don't like that you didn't meet their expectations, they're going to make sure damn well good you know it, even though you have no idea who they are. This happens across the board to any celebrity. Somebody starts out, not that I am not a celebrity. I'm saying I'm getting maybe 1/10 of 1%, maybe, of what a real celebrity gets. And I don't know how they deal with it. I don't know how. It's the only way I can think of is you have to disconnect from the internet. You have to just go to work, make your movie. You got to be Tom Cruise or somebody like that, where you have a house that has giant walls in the middle of, a large property that people just can't look over the fence. You go to work, you make your movie's seen all over the world by hundreds of millions of people, potentially. And if people don't like the movie, they're going to attack you. They're going to attack you online. So don't go online. Don't interact with them. And try to seclude yourself away from all the negativity. But also at the same time, all that positive sort of, hey, we think you're great, that's also pretty toxic too, right? Because then you might actually start believing it. And if you're like, yeah, I am pretty great. Well, that guy's a jerk. I don't like you. Well, go to hell. Well, then you're a jerk. You're a jerk either way. So the best thing is disconnect entirely. I can't do that in my line of work, right? My line of work doesn't afford me the ability to segregate myself away from society, to be a private life and then a public life. Everything I do is pretty much in the public, and I'm okay with it. Like, what do I care as far as that goes? I'm not afraid of anybody, and bring it on. But the point is, after year after year after year after year, if you're growing, you're also gaining a lot more attention and scrutiny. And there's a lot of people who don't like you for any reason, who didn't even know you existed until you became popular. I was going somewhere with this conversation, with this example, and now I've forgotten where I started. The bottom line, I suppose, is that a lot of the things that we enjoy doing, like the RGB all-in-one cooler, that's what I was talking about, we do them because they're fun. And we say, this is really cool. But when fun and cool keeps coming back to bite you, like, look, if I rescue a dog and that dog's biting me, I'm trying to feed it, and it's literally biting the hand that feeds it. I say, at first, it's okay. I'm going to train him. This is a natural part of the process. It's fun. 6 years on, that dog is still biting me. It's not fun anymore. And now every time I feed the dog, I'm not looking forward to, oh, are you hungry, my little guy? No, I'm like, here's your slop, and I'll just throw it at the dog because I don't want to get bit. And so the attitude of the person changes when what started out as a fun project, even if it cost a bit of money, it was worth it. But it never ends. It's a project that just will not stay running. It constantly requires attention. It requires more time, and it requires often more money. We all reach a point where we go, we're done. This isn't fun anymore. And I wonder if that's where Mark Gaines is at. That was a long way around to get there, but I did get there, darn it. All right, now I'm curious about something. Now this unit's still pretty warm, but I don't think it's as hot as it used to be. Because it used to get so hot that it was kind of uncomfortable. But I've got another unit here that I put on Wi-Fi. Let me go grab it. Okay, so this is my original unit. This is the one we took apart, and I put it all back together hoping I didn't break it. Same thing, right? Only I've got this one configured on the Wi-Fi here at Studio C. So what I want to try and do, first of all, let's just verify this rebooted into the Nano KVM software. So I'm going to jump back over here. Let's hit the video capture, and we'll refresh this page. Yeah, so we are back into the, you see the SciPede logo here. So we're back on the Nano KVM Pro. So let me go back over to camera 1. Okay. Let's just do this. We'll take this cable out, and this cable out. All right, this is the one that was in here. Just so I don't confuse myself, we'll put it back in the box. And again, so I don't confuse myself, these are the cables I kept with this. I've got other cables. It's just my OCD. I like to keep things together. So for these cables, we'll set them aside, and we'll plug it in over here. Now for this one, because it's already on Wi-Fi, I just plug in to the connectors closest to me. You'll also notice this one, if you look closely, you'll see a little memory card sticking out right here. It doesn't go all the way in, kind of sticks out. And that's a 32 gig memory card. They're like $6 on Amazon. And then I can put up to 32 gigs worth of files, ISO images. That's how you would load, like my utilities flash drive is on here. And this becomes a virtual drive letter that I can access on the remote PC directly. So if you're wondering what this little piece was sticking up, if you caught that, I don't know why the memory card doesn't go in all the way, but that is all the way. So using the far connectors, the HDMI on the edge and the USB above it, those are the only two cables I need, and then this should connect to my Wi-Fi. Now, prior to the show, I did update this to 124, just so I was a little more prepared than normal when looking at the Nano KVM Pro. And in just a minute, it should go ahead and obtain an IP address. It's working on it right now. Boom, it just got it. Now, these are all local IP addresses, so they don't mean anything to anybody watching. It's not a security issue because these IP addresses are non-routable. But notice the time is off. It says it's 5:56 in the morning, and it's 2:56 in the afternoon. So something broke the clock. And now, here's what I'm wondering. If the clock is accurate here, and it's not accurate here, I wonder if the time sync in this latest app update only works on a wired LAN. There's one way to find out. Let's grab a wired LAN cable and let's plug it in. So we're going to get two IP addresses at the same time. We get our Wi-Fi address and we get our wired address. Now, if I come back over here and I go back to our browser, and let's see, I'm going to have to type in the IP address, which is, it says it's 68.70. Oh, it's not showing me two IP addresses anymore. I wonder if they addressed that. I wonder if they addressed the addresses. Anyway, I just got to change that 76 to a 70. All right, my first time connecting to it, so yeah. So we'll log into it. We'll go up here to the gear, and under device, Oh, by the way, just in case I did that too quickly, you see we're on 124, and our .70 is the wired address, and it did give us also a .67, which is our wireless address. So I am connected two different ways. I don't know why it's not one or the other. I assume they'll fix this in an app update, because you shouldn't need both. You should need one or the other. That's it. Usually wired overrides wireless, like on a laptop or a mini PC. And if it misses the wired, then it falls back to wireless, but you don't usually get them both. We go back to check for updates, you know, it's current. We go to device and we look at the time and hit sync now. And the time on the unit is now correct. So if I go back over to camera 1 and I show you the clock, this is interesting, and this might help you out, Andy. If your clock isn't syncing, it looks like something in the app has broken the time synchronization on the wireless connection, but on the wired connection, it's keeping it fine. So what happens now that I've resynced, if I disconnect it and go back on Wi-Fi, what did I say that Wi-Fi was? It was .67. So let's jump back over here and go to .67, which is what I thought it said. Advanced. Okay, so now we're on the Wi-Fi. And back over to the gear, back over to device, scroll down. So before it was telling me it was November 26th, so it was off by 4 days and 15 hours or so. And now it's syncing fine. I can't help but wonder if it's related to the wireless versus wired connection. And this is just the current status of the app. So I am bringing this to SciPede's attention so it can be addressed in a future update. But Andy, if you want to give that a shot and let us know if it works for you, I would just be curious that I'm on the right page here with the diagnostic. All right, let me get back over into the chat. Andy says the main problem with the Wi-Fi was their horrible instructions. Yeah, their documentation has not been good. Mark Leibowitz said he's been moving a managed backup client over to a new system in mini PC shopping for the same client while listening. Found an AOStar Ryzen 7 5700U for $235. It's not a top performer, but it has a VGA port. I like how you say that like it's a good thing. That's got a port from 1997 on it. Hey, that's awesome. I mean, maybe the client still needs that, I don't know. But if I never see another VGA port again in use in a real client, I'd be good. I'd be okay with that. Andy says, I use my Nano KVM every day, so I check it for updates. Oh, that's cool. Oystein says, in the terminal window, it shows how to change the password. Well, if that's, and I appreciate the information and I assume that's true, why is it not in the graphical user interface? Why would I have to open terminal? Right there, on something so basic and so required, would I have to have the technical knowledge to go typing commands in? That to me, is inexcusable. I mean, if you have the programming skills to write this code, but you don't have the programming skills to let somebody change the password in the interface, I'm speechless. You should never have to open terminal. Never have to. You should only open terminal as an option, and it should be reserved sort of like opening the hood of your car. There's nothing an average driver should have to do to their car where they have to open the hood to get the engine started or to use the basic functionality in a vehicle. If somebody considers themselves mechanically inclined and they like to do a little maintenance on their car themselves, that's great, but a lot of people don't know. You tell somebody, you know, put an extra quart of oil in the car and they stick it in the washer fluid. Or you tell them top off the radiator and they grab the garden hose and they start filling up the crankcase of the engine, putting the water into the engine, and you destroy the engine. So the average driver who has no mechanical knowledge should never need to open their hood. That should be reserved for mechanics and car enthusiasts who share that interest. Having to open up terminal to change the password is like having to open the hood of the car to start the car or to unlock the doors. It is preposterous, but good to know just the same. I mean, I assumed you could change it at terminal, but based on principle alone, I am not going to type in arcane Linux commands for a basic function when you've got all those other options on the screen, all those other menu buttons to click on, including on the Nano KVM side. It's not like it's not possible. It's like, what possible reason would they have obscured that? Such a critical, important thing. The most basic of things, they've left it complicated to change the most basic thing. I just don't understand. But that's part of the open source community. It's not uncommon for the open source community to see simple in the complex. Anybody who's skilled at anything will appear to be doing something complex to somebody unfamiliar. And the whole point of the graphical user interface is to simplify that interface for the average person. Otherwise, we don't need the graphical user interface. We could just get rid of it. We'll just do everything with Linux commands. That's my issue. Like, make up your mind. They kind of on the PicoKVM side, they kind of made it less technical, but then they just didn't follow it through. On the most basic thing that universally applies to everyone who's going to use it, never occurred to them. It's beyond their skill. I don't know what they're thinking, but it really bothers me. If they were that smart, that's one of the first things they would have done. They think they're smart because they're being complicated. That's not smart. Unless the people you're writing it for are other complicated people, people that like complexity. If you're writing it for the general public, if you're writing it for the average user, you got a lot to learn. That's all I'm saying. See the thanks you get in the open source community? I rest my case. Andy says he's just going to wait till the next update to fix this clock issue. Yeah, I'm sure they'll address it. I'm just trying to help them. Andy says he doesn't have a wired LAN to plug it into. Yeah, well, I mean, there you go. Andy says, thanks, Carey. Nice to have you on the same Nano KVM voyage with me. Planet Cryos also has a Nano KVM Pro. And I believe William Bird has a few of them. Was it William Bird? And he offered to send me. He goes, here, you want some more to play with? I'm like, I got plenty. Good. There's nothing I can do with them to help him. Like, he just needs to wait it out. You know, if it's not ready for prime time for him yet, just let it sit on a shelf for a couple months, and then when you plug it in, get the latest update. I think it's pretty damn close to being done. I'm very impressed with it now. The speed, when you look at how fast the cursor moves, when I move my cursor to when the cursor moves here, absolutely one of the fastest I've ever seen. I don't mind if there's a little delay. It still works the same. It's just, it's a distraction to see the other cursor following. Because this is happening so fast, it's not as distracting. But that's what comes with the second generation with a more powerful processor and more RAM. It's just going to respond to things quicker. And I appreciate you keeping us informed. Andy's often telling me when there's new updates. But as I just showed you with changedetection.com, you don't have to let me, I mean, you're welcome to let me know, but likely anytime that site gets any additional information added or changed, I'm going to get a notification and email the minute it goes live. Or I should rephrase that, within 24 hours, right? Because it's only checking the site once every 24 hours. Tyler with a $5 super chat says, Carey, a few years ago you sent me a Scythe Mugen 5 TUF Gaming Alliance CPU cooler, and I'm still using it in my build today, and it runs great. That's awesome. I'm not surprised. I mean, those are great coolers. I don't think I've ever had to replace one, ever. Not even a fan. Something I did yesterday is this computer over here, my little streamer, it's got 3 fans across the top. And they help take the air up and out the top so that the orientation of the fans is the air gets pulled from inside where the heat's being generated and blown out the top. And the last week or so, as I've been broadcasting, I've been hearing tick, 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 tick coming from somewhere in here. And I've been ignoring it. And I don't know, I'm assuming the microphone never picked it up. And these fans don't run all the time. There's 3 fans here. They're 92 millimeters or 9.2 centimeters, and they're made by Cooler Master. And if you go on Google and you type in Cooler Master fan making ticking sounds, it's a thing that's widely common on Cooler Master fans. And depending on how hot the system gets, these fans will turn off completely or run, just like a graphics card. The fans will stop or they might run slow. And when this one towards the back, there's 3 of them, the one towards the back, when it was running slow, it was going tick, 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 tick. So how did I figure it out? So yesterday I decided, this is driving me crazy. Let me just replace the fan. So I open it up and I realize I don't have any 92 millimeter fans. All the fans I have are 120s and 140s. So I go online, I take a picture of my phone of the model number of the fan. And I go online looking for this fan. Can't find it. I go on eBay, somebody's got a used one, but I don't want to buy a used one. And there's some companies on eBay shipping out of China that claim to have it, but you know, I'm not going to see it for 3 weeks. And then there's a Reddit discussion. Somebody has a Nook Extreme like this. They also have a fan ticking. And they found Be Quiet Pure Wings 2 92 millimeter fan fits in there perfectly. And they changed the 3 fans with a higher volume of air movement that run completely silent. They're better than the original fans. And I said, oh, I'm going to make a note of this. Good to know. I go on Amazon, they're $20 a piece. To replace 3 fans is going to cost me $60, and it'll be 10 to 15 days for some reason before I can get them. So it's been a long time since I've had to do any repair of a fan. But I thought, let me just try the old school repair. On the back of the fan, there's a sticker. All right, so the back of the fan is where the air is coming out. So it's going to be on, in this case, facing up. So once I take the top and the side panels off of this, I start to listen for the ticking sound. I have to wait for these to turn on. As soon as I start hearing the ticking sound, I put my finger on the first fan to stop it. And the ticking sound stopped immediately. Let my finger go, fan starts spinning again, ticking sound comes back. It was that fast to identify where the ticking was coming from. So there's a sticker on this side of the fan. Then in the middle, if you push down on the sticker, you can feel there's a hole under it. So I grabbed my X-Acto knife and I dug into where the label where the hole is and just ran it around in a circle and exposed the hole. That's the shaft of the motor with a little C-clip holding it in. Now, normally I like to use a sewing machine oiler because it's a precision oiler. Just to show you what that looks like. By the way, a customer would have paid me $65 for this repair, so it would have been faster and cheaper to just replace the fan. But it's for me, and it was kind of fun because I'm not doing it all the time. So I'm like, the worst that can happen is it's not going to fix the problem and I'll have to replace it anyway. But this is a solution I can do right now. So if we go back over to my window capture, I think I threw out my pen oiler because I bought it in 1990s. When did I buy it? 2017? And I used it like twice. But if you look for a pen oiler for a sewing machine, basically it's this. It's a precision oiler. Now keep in mind when you're buying these on Amazon, they often sell them empty. So if we look down here, it'll say whether or not there's oil included. This one says plus oil, this one says no oil. It's the oiler only. You have to provide your own oil, like here. I like to get it all in one shot. It gets shipped just like this. They're usually like 10 bucks. And it's got like a little cap like a pen, and then a cap to keep the oil from leaking out. And that way you can drip the oil in with precision into the tiny hole in that fan. But I've only fixed 3 fans in my career. This is the 3rd one. That's how infrequently I would be bothered. I'd rather just switch the fan out. And that's what I was intending to do until I realized they were 92 millimeters. I've already got the machine apart. I don't want to order a part, have to put the machine back together, wait for the part to arrive, and take the machine apart again. I mean, I still might have to, but I thought, what could I do right now? Well, a lot of people say WD-40 isn't that good. For a fan, it's fine. The biggest problem you have with a can of WD-40 is that pressure that it shoots out at. You're going to get oil all over the place. So what I did was very carefully, with the fan sitting down but the unit powered completely off, I put the little red straw into the hole and gently squeezed the trigger, and I saw the hole fill up with oil. And I said, okay, stop right there. The oil is now completely filled that hole that used to be under the stick, well, the sticker used to cover. Then I turn the unit on and I start watching the fan spin, and I can see the oil spinning. And I also see the oil going down. And as it goes down, I grab my can of WD-40 very carefully now, even though WD-40 should not be a conductor. I don't want the mess. So with everything running, the fan is spinning, very gently squeezing the trigger on the WD-40, start to fill that hole up one more time, which is probably way too much oil. But there's no holes on the other side of the fan for the oil to go. So I figure if the oil goes down, it's going somewhere. And maybe if this were flipped upside down, the oil would drip out of it, right? But it's never going to be flipped upside down. Okay, so once again, the fan starts spinning and I see the oil start to go down, and then it doesn't quite go all the way down. There's still some in there. And I run CPU-Z, and I run the stress for the CPU, the stress test, because it's fast. You know, I don't have to load up Cinebench or something that takes a while. I can just immediately run the stress test. And these fans start to kick up real quick because of the heat that's generating, and they're all running at full speed. And I let them run at full speed for a good 20-30 minutes. Just let it sit. Let that oil work in. I come back and check on it a half hour later. Most of the oil's gone, but there's still a little overspray, just a little bit. So I grab a Q-tip and I shut the machine off. I clean all that with a Q-tip, making sure I don't get any cotton fibers in there, because that would be bad. Grab a paper towel to wipe up any other residue. And if I want to cover the hole, you can go on Amazon and you can buy these little round stickers. They're just used for all kinds of things. In fact, if we go back over, let's see if we can find some. Yeah. And so I could just take one of these stickers and place it over the hole that I just exposed to keep any dust, debris from getting in and keep any of the oil from coming out. The reason I didn't is because this is already a filter up here on top. That's going to prevent a lot of dust from getting down there to begin with, and the air is going out, it's not going in. I'm not worried about it. Two, I don't even know if this is going to fix it permanently, but it's 100% silent, perfectly silent now. If the ticking comes back, I have a plan to replace those fans, and I might look again for the original Cooler Master fans to go back in it. But the folks on Reddit are like, those Cooler Master fans are terrible, and you will be doing yourself a favor replacing them with the Be Quiet. And I like Be Quiet fans. I'm only concerned about the cable length, because each of these fans runs to a fan header, and this cable has to be longer than this cable, right? Each cable that gets closer to the header, or each fan that gets closer to the header, needs a shorter cable, which means I'm going to have to do some creative wire management there. So be that as it may, that problem I solved yesterday. And the other thing I did is I went over to camera 2 and I locked the focus in so that we're not going to see any more of the out of focus stuff that was happening when we had a lot of like black, a lot of black items. Everything's black. This is black. The streamer's black. These are all black. And when you get too much black on the screen, the focus has a hard time reflecting light. It starts shifting focus and it drives me crazy. So I finally got that locked in on camera 2, which has been something I'd been putting off. So I got some little work done along with updating those other 2 computers, again, remotely. And I just thought I'd share the story with you. I was thinking about filming it, but there's really no way for me to get a camera over this. And I didn't want to take the fan out. If you were going to do this right, like professionally, you wouldn't be doing it while it was in the machine because of the leaking oil. While I was at Studio B, a computer was brought in for repair that had a bunch of fans, RGB fans, and one of the fans, the RGB lights, one of the fans would light up, but it wouldn't spin anymore. And I couldn't figure out who makes those fans. To fix that, I'd have to replace all the fans so they all match. Otherwise, the RGB won't be the same. You're going to have one fan that's different. That was going to cost $100. And I thought, well, let me just try the exact same thing I did here. Again, I don't think I could find my pen oiler even back then. And I thought, well, let's see how long WD-40 has lasted. Well, that customer's had that machine ever since. And I've not heard anything. I have to assume the fan still works to this day. And the main thing when you oil the fan is you need to let it run and let that oil really work itself into those bearings, really get embedded into the porous material of the bearings. So I think on that one, I let it run overnight. And I was pretty confident at that point, that many hours of that much oil just submerging those bearings, that gets embedded within the bearing, it's not going to last forever. No oil lasts forever, but it should hopefully last the lifetime of the computer. Because in his case, we would have to replace the 3 front fans and the rear fan, and there might have been 2 top fans. There might have been a total of 6 or 7, and we'd have to buy like a matching set, which means we're replacing 5 good fans just because one bad one. And again, we're back to the whole frustration of RGB and how it gets expensive. And it's a repair that somebody without RGB would have never needed. If it was a regular fan without RGB, I could have swapped it to a different manufacturer. And sure, the sticker on the back might have said Noctua instead of Cooler Master, or Be Quiet instead of, I don't know, somebody else. A black fan's a black fan. You know what I mean? No one's going to notice. Even if it had a different number of blades on it, they probably wouldn't notice. But the RGB, that's all people notice. Andy says there only seems to be a few of us around with the Nano KVM Pro. Well, it's not the most popular product. I don't think most people know what it is. And when I went to order another Nano KVM Pro, if you go to Amazon, you can't get them. So we're back to the JetKVM problem, only for a different reason. So if we look at Amazon, you see they're selling them. The UYE2 store is where I've ordered all the Nano KVMs, Pro or otherwise. It says it's currently unavailable. Well, the reason it's unavailable, There's a quick note from UYE2. When you go to the uye2.com site, it says, to bring you an even better shopping experience, our team is getting ready for a comprehensive system upgrade. Therefore, starting from November 27, 2025, our store will temporarily pause accepting new orders. We'll use this time to focus on optimizing every aspect of your journey with us, from product pages and website design to our checkout and customer service processes. To our valued customers with existing orders, please don't worry. All current orders will be processed and fulfilled as usual without any disruption. Thank you for your understanding and continued support, and this is dated November 25th, just 5 days ago. It doesn't say when they're coming back, but if you want to order directly from UYE2, this is not an easy thing to find. You have to kind of Google search it. Trying to find anybody selling one of these right now is a little difficult. But if we want the desktop version with Wi-Fi, which is what I have here, with no RGB, it's 102.28 with that config. If you want with power over Ethernet and Wi-Fi, it's about $10 more. Okay, so with that, we could hit add to cart, buy now. Let's see if we can add it to the cart. So apparently they're letting us shop. And I assume this has something to do with why this company's products aren't on Amazon right now. Something to do with this upgrade. But they're not ubiquitous. They're not everywhere. And most people don't even know what they are. So I don't think these will ever be common. Not for a long time. Maybe more so in MSPs and technicians and more technical people, right? But the average computer user probably have a hard time wrapping their head around this. So, or having an understanding of why it would benefit them, because it probably wouldn't. But that might explain, if they're so hard to get and so hard to find and most people don't know what they are, we're just keep reducing the odds of people buying them for all of these reasons. So hopefully it'll be back on Amazon here soon. In the meantime, we went through the same thing with JetKVM, and JetKVM's on Amazon right now for $103.99, or you can order it from JetKVM.com. They sell it through a company called iCoolCore, and it's a little cheaper than this because, you know, there's got to be pay Amazon, you know what I mean? But Amazon has a bigger audience, so you could probably sell more at a higher price at Amazon than you would from a site nobody's ever heard of at a cheaper price. And then finally, we've got the Luckfox, and the Luckfox is $70, but you've got to configure it yourself. You got to put the latest image on it. You got to provide your own cables. It's a plain white box with no documentation and no branding anywhere on the unit, except when it boots up, you get the brand of the Fox, the Lucky Fox up there, I guess. It's not Wi-Fi, it's not 4K. All right, it's basically the JetKVM in a different package. The JetKVM software is open source, so it's not like they're doing anything suspicious. And the software is not exactly identical. JetKVM's more consumer ready. The Pico KVM from Luckfox, that what we're looking at, is more for a hobbyist or someone more technical savvy at this current stage. Again, it's a recently released product. The other one I've been looking at is ArcKVM. And ArcKVM looks a lot like the JetKVM. And they've got a Kickstarter right now. It says you can sign up for their email list if you want to be an early bird. We reached out to them because we said, when we looked at this product on their Kickstarter page, it didn't identify what speed the network port was. It said multi-megabit, not gigabit. Well, as far as I know, there's no such thing as multi-megabit unless it's 100 megabit. That's all there is. So I wrote to them, and they wrote me back, and they said, our apologies. We didn't realize we did that. It was not our intention to deceive, and we will update our page. So now I'm wondering, if we go to Kickstarter, have they done that yet? We'll type in ArcKVM, and let's see how their sales are going. Wow, they've collected $20,000, almost $21,000 of pledges. That's great. And when we get to the specs, do they identify it now? Have they corrected it? Where are the specifications? I know they're in here somewhere. Now this is 4 months out. If you were to order it, you'd pledge. They collect the pledges after 30 days. They start manufacturing and then shipping after testing. And should ship in March. Still looking for those specifications. Here we go. They fixed it. They fixed it. And that's thanks to you guys. You guys brought it to my attention. I brought it to their attention. It didn't have a number here before. Before, if you look at our video on this, it said multi-megabit. Now they've accurately say 10/100 megabits per second. Even the PS is added. This is more accurate. So again, our community here does make a difference, and they didn't realize it until we brought it to their attention. I didn't even realize it till you brought it to my attention. So that's cool. It's cool to make a difference in a way that's beneficial for everybody. I do advocate on your behalf as much as I can. Andy says those fans don't use sealed bearings. Well, there isn't really such a thing as a sealed bearing. I mean, in the sense that if you take one of these fans apart, there's a little C-clip inside. Like if you watch some YouTube videos of people showing you how to fix fans, they'll show you completely disassembling the fan. The fan and the spindle come out. So that spindle is part of the bearing. The bearing surrounds it. So it can't be sealed if the fan can come off. The minute you take the fan off, it's not sealed anymore. What ends up happening is there can be play, and when it starts spinning, it'll start ticking. The spindle will start hitting the inside of the bearing. It doesn't matter if it's a ball bearing, it's still going to be a spindle on the inside of that instead of, how can I explain this? The bearings are on a ball bearing fan, they're not touching the spindle. They're usually inside of a housing, and it's the housing that's hitting the spindle. And if the spindle and the housing start to get wobbly, you're going to start hearing noises. Tick, 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 tick. It's pretty common. By lubricating that, you're reducing the friction so that there's a softer cushion for it to hit. You're not fixing the fact that it's out of whack, but what you're doing is you're lubricating it, and that may be all it needs for the rest of its remaining life, or not. But it's a really cheap, easy thing to try, because otherwise I'm changing the fan, right? And I might just end up changing the fan anyway. But we're only on day one. This is the first day of using it now. It's perfectly silent, so why would I change the fan? So unless that starts up again, as far as I can tell, I fixed it. Just like any other problem. You can change a light bulb. That doesn't mean it's never going to burn out again. It'll burn out again. Give it enough time. It could be tomorrow. It could be 10 years from now. I don't know. But why do work I don't have to do? Until I have to do it, I'm not doing it. I don't like to think of it as lazy. I like to think of it as really efficient. I'm optimizing my time. Andy mentions there's an $11 shipping on which? One of those KVMs, I guess. Andy says, because of this site and your videos, the Nano KVM solved a problem with my use case, which is remote control of a remote ham radio beacon. Yeah, very cool. Scott says you should oil all 3 fans if it's fixed. I completely, 100% disagree with you. If something's not broken, don't fix it. I cannot emphasize this enough. There are certain things in life where one thing is dependent on the other, and you need to have the balance. So let's say, for example, you need to replace one tire on your car. If that tire's in the back or that tire's in the front, you should never be replacing just one tire. Unless you can get the exact same tire with the exact same tread pattern, and assuming the other three tires are still like new, because even the thickness of the tread on the new tire isn't going to sit the same, and it's going to affect your steering, your stopping, your handling, and your ride quality. So you always replace tires minimal 2 at a time, because the left one affects the right one. From front to back doesn't matter, but from left to right, you want those equal in all ways. These fans are not connected together where one relies on the other whatsoever. There's also another fan over here on the side. If I were you, and this is the best advice I can give you from somebody who's had to do a lot of repairs from voluntary, self-inflicted problems people have caused themselves, where nothing was wrong, but they thought it'd be a good idea to prevent a problem, they ended up creating a problem they never would have had. If you're not fixing anything, my strongest advice is leave it alone. Unless you want to break it. Because when I break the seal on that sticker, I've now opened up that bearing to all the elements. So I don't want to do that. I would also either have to seal that back up with a sticker, which means I'm spending more money, I'm doing more work, and I'm trying to save time. If I didn't care about time, and I didn't care about money, I could simply just have ordered the fans off Amazon, put the thing back together, dealt with the ticking for another 2 weeks until the package finally arrives. And I'm not just going to change one fan to the Be Quiet Pure Rings because it runs at a different speed. I'm going to change all three at the same time. So now it's a $60 repair. But when I'm done, those fans will be quieter. Even though this is quiet, they will be quieter. I'll have to do some creative cable management because of the unique design of this case. And if you want to put that much time and that much money into it, I won't stop you, but I'm not doing it unless I have to. If I can just fix the problem, I'm done. If I don't have to spend any more time on it, and I don't have to spend any more money, and I don't have to risk damaging, even though the damage may not be apparent for months. In other words, you might do something that you will see an immediate result. Like in this case, let's say we take the razor and we cut the label open and we oil those fans. We won't notice any difference because there's nothing to be improved. It's not going to run any better than it's running now. So we're doing unnecessary work. But because we've exposed the bearing now without that sticker covering it, we have to go through extra effort to plug that up or trick ourselves into believing we actually did something useful when in fact we did something harmful, that now that bearing may fail sooner because it's exposed. This bearing already failed. It's not like I could make it worse. I suppose I could make it worse where it doesn't spin at all, but if it's worth trying, because the risk is if I break it, it was going to replace it anyway. But if I fix it, I don't have to replace it. But the ones that aren't broken, why would you mess with them? I just think it's profoundly unwise unless you really have nothing to do or you really find enjoyment and entertainment in that. But I wouldn't have you do that if you were working for me. You wouldn't be doing work to customer systems that didn't need to be done. That's considered fraud. So if you do it to yourself, hey, who am I, to tell you what you enjoy? And it's your consequences. But I think it's poor decision making. That's my personal opinion. Larry there in California says he's been using dry graphite powder on fans with much better success than using oils. I think the oil I had was a graphite. When you're choosing oil, there's gels, silicone type lubricants, there's grease, and what I'm looking for on a computer fan is a precision oiler, right? And what I'm trying to convey here is that when I was looking for the oil, I was initially looking for graphite. I thought for sure I had a graphite oil pen oiler. But then it occurred to me, these are mass-produced $9 fans. That's like putting racing oil in your Honda, on your Kia Soul or something. It's just a complete waste of money to use precision oil on a cheap fan. And you can spend that money and do that if you want to. I'm sure it's a superior oil, but it's still not going to make the fan bearings any better. This is a cheap, I'm sure it's a sleeve bearing fan. It's not an expensive fan, and probably the Be Quiet fans are more advanced bearing fans. That's probably why they can move more air and be quieter. When you're a mass manufacturer like this, especially a few years ago, you're probably buying the cheapest quality product, you know, of certain minimal quality. And I'm sure that's how Intel picked Cooler Master. But when you go online and you read about people having fan problems with Cooler Master, you're going to see a lot of search results. It's very common. And I don't believe that because you put graphite oil in it, you've somehow improved the quality of your Cooler Master fan, because inherently it's a bad design. But if I'd have had it, I would have used it just because I had it, but I wouldn't go and get it. That's why I didn't order the $10 pen oiler. Then I'd have to wait for that to arrive. I wanted it fixed right now, and I'm looking around like MacGyver going, what do I have around here that'll do this? And I think WD-40 is often seen as like a temporary fix. But I can tell you from everything I've done with WD-40, from oiling door hinges that were squeaking and doorknobs that were getting kind of tough to turn, I've never had to do them again. Once I've done them once, so far, nothing I've had to oil for squeaking has started squeaking again. I think people downplay just how good WD-40 really is. Now, that's just been my experience. And we're only on day one of this fix, but if this starts ticking again, I'm not going to experiment around with any other oils. If I'm going to buy anything, I'm going to buy a new fan. And I will look one more time for the original fan online to see if anybody's got them for sale, except what I could find in China. See if anybody's got them for sale in the US, so I don't have to replace all three. Like, I don't care about the one over here, but these three go together, and I want all three to be the same for airflow purposes. So if I buy one at $20, I got to buy two more. Do I want to spend $60 because of a tick, 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 tick? Or do I have something around here that can get it solved? How long will it solve it? How long is a new fan going to solve it? I could buy a brand new fan, and maybe because it's handled rough in shipping or it wasn't packed well, it runs for a week and then starts making noise or stops working altogether. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's going to outlast the work I've done. On the other hand, I wouldn't have done the work unless it needed to be done. I didn't just decide one day I'm going to just oil my fans. I think there's got to be other more productive things that need to be done around the house that actually need repair that you're not repairing. I believe that if you tell me you would oil all your fans, you invite me over to your house and let me open all your kitchen cabinets and see if they open and close and all the drawers open and close properly, and that they don't need oiling or roller wheels replaced, and that you're just ignoring all that stuff that you actually use every day that's broken and you tolerate it, and instead you want to open up something that's not broken to try and make it better. I have a really tough time dealing with this logic because I want everything to always work. And there's so many things in a house that constantly need some sort of adjustment or oil or repair. I don't know how anybody lives in a house where everything works. Toilet's never running, it's always just filling up perfectly. The shower's never dripping, the hose bib outside isn't dripping, there's no leaks anywhere, all those cabinet doors open without squeaking, they close without rubbing. All the stuff we use every day. I was at the in-laws, and when I opened the refrigerator, The light didn't come on inside the refrigerator. It's a pretty new refrigerator. So there's a little latch, you know, that the door hits when it closes. And I flip it with my finger a few times and the light comes on. When I close the door, the light goes off. I open the door, the light comes on. I close the door, light goes off. I open the door, the light doesn't come on again. I close it, I open it, the light sometimes comes on, sometimes it doesn't on opening the door. In the refrigerator, there's a label. This is driving me crazy. How often do you open and close the refrigerator? And if it's nighttime, it's a new refrigerator. Why isn't the light working? It's not the bulb. So there's a sticker inside the refrigerator. It says the make and the model. So I pull up my phone, I take a picture of that, and then I look up on Amazon, door light switch and the model of refrigerator. Or it might have just been Google. And one of the first links took me to Amazon, and it said there's a 2-pack of these switches that can be delivered overnight to the in-laws' house for $6. Order it. Okay. The next day, the in-laws go, "Did you have a package yet?" "Yeah, that's for me." Inside, there's 2 refrigerator door switches. There's no screws. You just take a flat screwdriver and you pop the switch away, and it's got little plastic clips that hold it in. So when you take a screwdriver, very carefully, don't gouge into the refrigerator. Just start working your way around the corners. That thing pulls out with 2 wires. Take the 2 wires off, grab the new switch, compare them, they're the same, push the 2 wires on, push the switch back in. To this day, that refrigerator light opens, you know, turns on, turns off, just like it was intended to. And they lived with it like that for years. I'm like, how long has it been doing this? I don't know. How does this not drive you crazy? So before I would go and do any work to fix anything that isn't broken, I want to focus on what's broken first. Once I run out of broken things and I'm bored, then I want to enjoy those things. I don't want to spend more time doing things that don't need to be done without, you know, having the time to appreciate these things that are working. Otherwise, what was the point in fixing them? That's how I see it anyway. So. But I have no doubt, Larry, that dry graphite powder would be far superior. And if I had some, I would have used it. But if I've got to order it and wait, I need solutions. I got to move on to the next thing. Andy says he's looking at the Minis Forum Aberzy XG1370 that I reviewed. Yeah, you know, I don't know why Minis Forum created another brand. So, I mean, technically it's not a Minis Forum. Technically, Aberzy is its own company. It's a subsidy of Minis Forum, but it's his own brand, like Atom Man. And I don't know why they did it. In other words, instead of building on a quality brand that you've been establishing a great reputation for, you're starting over with a whole nother brand. It says nothing about Minis Forum on the box, in the literature, nothing. You would never know that that came from Minis Forum. I don't know if it's got to be some kind of marketing technique and experiment. And that may be why there's only like one Aberzy. Or maybe we'll see more, I don't know. But that is a Minis Forum. It's got the Minis Forum quality, Minis Forum parts, and it's supported by minisforum.com. And I was very happy with it. Wayne says he's got the JetKVM, which works fine. I unplugged it and installed a Nano KVM using the same cables. I can log in, but I can't change anything on the PC. So a Nano KVM won't use the same cables as a JetKVM, first of all. A JetKVM uses a mini HDMI cable. So it's the only KVM on the planet that I'm aware of that uses a mini HDMI cable. Even the clone uses full size. Like if I bring this up here, and let me grab a JetKVM. Give me just 1 second here. You see, the back of these is similar, but a little bit different. on a JetKVM, you're going to plug your HDMI in right here. And it may be hard to tell, but if you compare it to a regular size HDMI, which we've got right here, look how much bigger this is. It'll focus. Is it going to focus? Versus how teeny tiny that HDMI is right there. It is really tiny. So you can't use that on a Nano KVM. You can't use it on any other KVM but a JetKVM. So you didn't use the same cables. Let's start there. Secondly, the reason why you probably can't control the keyboard and mouse is you may not have plugged the USB cable into the right port. So on a Nano KVM, let me grab one of those and I'll show you. Hold on a second, I got to figure out where the heck I put it. Oh, here we go. So the standard Nano KVM looks like this. And if you notice on this side, we've got our Ethernet and a USB-C. And if we turn it around to this side, we've got another USB-C, full-size HDMI, and another USB-C. But only one of these USB-Cs provides you with keyboard and mouse access. So if you plugged your USB cable into the wrong USB-C, you might have gotten the screen to light up and got power, but you didn't get any keyboard or mouse control because you plugged it in the wrong port. And I demonstrated this by accident the last time I brought one of these out. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I think, well, here, there's a diagram on the side. So the one that says HID, that's where your keyboard and mouse go. The auxiliary port is for like controlling, actually I think that's for auxiliary power. No, auxiliary is for like controlling an ATX port, the turn power switch on and reset switch on an ATX like tower computer. And the other side is the optional 5 volts that you could plug in if you want separate power. So you want to be on just this one side. And if you plug it into the wrong one, if you plug it into the, I can't remember if it's the top or the bottom. If you plug it into the wrong one, you're going to get this powered on, but you won't get any keyboard or mouse. So then unplug it and plug it into the other one instead. And then that should power it on. And that's what we call user error. That sounds like the solution to the problem you're describing. If I had to guess, it is usually the simple things that solve the problems. All right, let me put this back. Yeah, I'd have to plug that in to tell you exactly if it's the top one or bottom one. I can't remember. But it's easy enough to determine, right? Because the keyboard and mouse won't work if you get it in the wrong one. So I hope that helps you. Oh, Larry says he went to an auto parts store and bought his graphite oil. Yeah, that would require me to leave the house and interact with the public in Phoenix. I try to minimize that. If I can avoid going to an auto parts store. The last time I was at an auto parts store, Subaru Mike and I were working on something and I needed a part and I had to wait in line for about 20 minutes before they got to me. And then when I went to check out, the same person who's checking for parts is the cashier, and then I had to wait for that guy to then go over to the cash register and ring me up for some stupid little part. I'm so spoiled. I just go on Amazon, I click, 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 and it shows up at the door usually within 2 days. I don't know why people physically go to retail places now other than groceries. And I know some people that have those delivered. I would never do that. I don't want somebody else picking out food for me or picking out substitutions and maybe not paying attention to things I'm paying attention to, like expiration dates. So for me, I still go to the grocery store. But for the most part, almost everything I order these days is online. If I lived in a small town where it wasn't so crowded and busy and 100+ degrees outside for 70% of the year, maybe I'd go out more often. It's not fun for me. It's like, go to the auto parts store. It's like I got to go to the dentist. I'd rather go to the dentist because they're not as busy. The waiting room is never that crowded. If I have to sit and read a magazine for 20 minutes, I don't mind. But if I got to jockey for position and competitiveness for parking and where my position is at the cash register and people standing too close behind me, not giving me any sort of space, yeah, is very unpleasant for me. But you know, again, if I lived in a smaller town and things weren't so hectic and you know, I would probably be less averse than I am now. I go there when I have to, and it's a chore. There's so many other things I'd rather be doing that most people consider chores that I will take it. I will do the laundry and mop the floors before I have to go to an auto parts store. But if I have to, I have to. And he says he's thinking about buying that ABRZ for a friend that wants a Mini that can game AAA games. Of course, I'll use the Carey optimizer on it. Right on. Do we still have the, you know what, the ABRZ? I think, let me just check. I want to step over here real quick because we reviewed it and then it got put back onto a shelf. And I'm just curious, I have an area reserved for these. Is this it? No? What did I do with it? I got too many computers, guys. It's here somewhere. Yeah. It would have been fun to take it out real quick, but I am not prepared. What is this behind here? Is that hiding? Nope. Where did it go? As soon as we end the broadcast, I'll see it. It's a great little machine. I really like it. And I think it's kind of a hidden gem simply because, for whatever reason, Minis Forum put it under a different product name. Did I put it over here? No. Huh. Oh. I have another stack, but it's not, it's in a completely different room. I'll bet you it's in there. Great machine, by the way. And I didn't understand that, and I don't understand it any better now why they just didn't call it Minis Forum. I'm going to guess it's a marketing thing. This Pico KVM, this is also a unit that's getting updates pretty regularly. Only there's no update button on this. You have to do the updates by hand. Like that's why I said on the Pico KVM, it's a pretty good deal at $69.99, but you do have to provide your own cables. And you are going to have to learn how to flash it. It takes 3 pieces of software. One is the drivers. Now, the drivers aren't needed for normal use. Drivers are only needed to run the flash software, so the flash software can identify it. So you need those 3 items. You need the drivers. You would only install those once on a computer as long as you're plugging this into the same computer to update it. you need the driver, I'm sorry, you need the firmware update software, so that's software number 2. And then you need to download the firmware image, so that's download number 3. And then you follow the steps, it only takes a minute. It's not that big of a deal. They will be adding an update button to this. They said they're working on it. They appreciate my feedback. And, well, that's what they said. Jerk. Thanks for the feedback, jerk. No, they were very kind and they acknowledged it and they said they're still working on it. It's pretty new to the market, even though it is a clone of this that's been out a year. This has not been out a year. And they're taking the open source and they're converting it for their hardware. So this is a little faster, a little bit more powerful than this because it's a year newer. This is also about $20, $30 cheaper than this. That being said, if you're familiar with the software, it's very identical. But this has an update button. This is more consumer, ready to eat out of the package, versus this is more do-it-yourself. But you don't have to know any electronics. You just have to plug it in and follow the instructions for the downloads or for the updates. And if we wanted to find that, I'll show you how I do that. I go over here. Let's jump back to, let's go back over to the Amazon page here. And let's just type into the browser Pico KVM. I don't know, maybe that's all we need. Let's see. So WaveShare is the company that makes it. And if we click on, we can order it directly from WaveShare. That $36 version is a naked version. Basically, it's the circuit board without the housing and without the screen. This housing is all metal. And if we're looking to update it, I think we go to the wiki. And they make a lot of different products, just like SciPede, a lot of project products, Raspberry Pi stuff, tiny little LEDs, e-paper. Like, this is really a hobbyist dream come true. And WaveShare sells all this stuff. And what we're looking for, I didn't realize there was this much stuff in here. So I'm going to try a different way. Back to our original download. Here's a wiki.luckfox.com. That's what I was looking for. And the firmware update process is described here. But here's the thing. They provide their firmware through Google Drive. So when I click on Google Drive, I've got to go into the firmware folder and see the date on it. This one says 11/19 of 25. See the date there? The year, the month, the day. If that wasn't clear enough, it says the date it was modified is on November 19th. So the same day they put on the file name is the day they uploaded it. And it's, 500, a little over 500 megs. And this was what, 11 days ago. So what I do is I go back over to that website I showed you earlier, changedetection.com, and I copy this link right up here, and I tell it, watch this link for any changes, which means if they take this file out or replace it or rename it, I get an email within 24 hours. Because the unit will not tell me, like the Nano KVM has the blue dot, or the JetKVM will even auto-update. This one will not auto-update. So you have to manually do this until such time that they add an update button. That's a downside, except it's not that big of a deal. Once you learn how to do it, when you do it the second time, it's easier. When you do it the third time, it's easier. When you do it the fourth time, you could probably do it with your eyes closed. It's not a big deal. What is the big deal is remembering to check for updates, since they don't tell you. And that's where that changedetection.com, it'll alert me so I don't have to think about it. So likely, if this was 11 days ago, we probably already have that. So if I jump back over here, let's go back to camera 1. And we're done with our little experiment here, so I'm going to disconnect this. And these cables went to this one, right? Told you I was going to confuse myself. This one went here. No, it goes to the edge, or it ain't going to work. I try to kind of keep these tied up because otherwise they get tangled. Like when I put them on a shelf, they'll fall between the slots in the shelf, and then I'm trying to pull it out and they get all snagged. So that I'm not doing it necessarily for OCD. I'm doing it so I can grab it without having anything snag or intertwine with other KVM cables that are beside it. So let's grab this now, and we'll plug in the Pico KVM with HDMI. Now this, again, this is not a second gen, so this has to be wired. There's no wireless on this. You'll see that it starts to boot. I do have to plug an Ethernet cable into it, which I have down here. And let's see what version of software we've got on here. So once again, this is going to obtain an IP address. It'll show it on the screen, and we can type that number in. This is a touch screen, and you can slide it back and forth. You can't change anything. It's just information. This says it's 192.168.68.74. It's only the last number that changes. So if we go back over to our window capture, and where were we? We were over here. We'll change that 67 to a 64 because this is unplugged. It's just caching the last thing it was sent to the browser. 192.168.68.64 refused to connect. Did I get it wrong? 74, not 64. User error. 74. I bet it'll work now. Refused to connect. 192.168.68.74. That's better. All right, so again, you can see the light delay between the first mouse and the one following. So it's a little slower than the Nano KVM Pro, but it's so fast. Anyway, let's close this and let's go up here to settings. It says we're on app version 003, system is version 012. Okay, and on their page it said it was 012. So we do have this latest version. Again, you've got the operating system, which they're referring to here as just the system, but this is your operating system. Occasionally that does change. Mostly what's changing is just the app. And you'll see we're only on version 0.0.3. So this is just the third iteration. And this will be fun to look back on when we're on version 129 or something. That means to be 126 updates since then. But there should be an update button in here, and it's not here yet. Anyway, they're very similar. All these KVMs are very similar. You can go full screen if you want to. And now it looks like we're looking right at the monitor full screen. You see it says there's a USB drive. And I put a memory card in it. And the memory card, where is it? Is it over here? No. Maybe I didn't put anything on it yet. Oh, USB emulation device. Shared folder. And that's our system image we're booting from right there. And if I, well, if I unplug it, you won't see anything. 1 terabyte, that's got to be internal. That's internal. That's internal. We only have 4 megs available. So did I not put a memory card in this? Oh, that's why. I didn't expand the storage on this one. Otherwise, I'd have another drive here that was like 32 gigs. And that's what I would use for file storage, which again is already built into the Nano KVM, not the Pro. The Nano KVM gives you like 26 gigs of free space on the regular version. And then the advanced version, they allow you to change that out and add memory cards so you can have up to 2 terabytes if you want to. Now to get out of the mode, I just pressed escape, but if I was full screen and I didn't press escape, I think you can go right up to the middle of the screen and there's an X that appears and hit that X. We can shut this down. and go back over to camera 1, and you'll see this computer is turning itself off. You'll see that blue light go off once we're powered off. And this will likely stay on, so I can still access this. Nope, you see the USB port I'm using on this machine, it cut power off to USB. Sometimes there's an option in the BIOS to leave the power on USB. Otherwise, there's one cable this comes with, and it's a USB-C splitter, which I never use. And the idea is that you can plug your cell phone charger into one end of the splitter so that when you turn the machine off, if your machine does not supply power over USB when it's off, like this one just demonstrated, then how would you access this to turn this back on? So I would just find a different USB port, or I would look in the BIOS to see if there's an option. In fact, well, let's just do that now. I'm plugged into the back here. Let's turn this back on. And let's go into the BIOS. So let's go back over to the window capture. And we'll refresh. See if this reconnects us. This is going to take a minute to boot up. And it looks like I missed the opportunity to get into the BIOS. So we're going to let that boot. Once we get into Windows, I'm going to restart. Just like I've shown you before with the other KVMs, this works exactly the same. Only this time, other than just demonstrating getting in the BIOS, let's look in the BIOS to see if we need to turn a feature on for power to be maintained. Not all BIOSes have it, but the newer the system is, the more likely it is in there, and you just need to toggle it on. You could always Google, you know, if you're not sure and you're not sure where to look, or if you're wasting your time. Somebody's probably already been down this road. But let's, as we wait for the machine to start up again, start pressing delete. You'll notice down in the bottom left, it's telling me which key I'm pressing. It's confirming. That's the key command I'm sending. Let me hit refresh on here. Delete, delete, delete. The timing on this is waiting for the post screen to come up, and hopefully it doesn't come up until after the boot up process of the Pico KVM. Because if that takes longer to boot up, then we've already missed this opportunity to hit delete. In which case I'd have to do the advanced startup in Windows. Let's go to setup and let's see if there's any options in here. Maybe under advanced. And it could be under a very technical name. It would be related to the I/O. Wouldn't be trusted. It would be either an onboard setting, which I was just looking at. Putting myself right back where I was, aren't I? Deep S5 is the sleep mode. It's not going to be a security issue. It's not a boot issue. So we know it's not going to be in these menus. And MEBX, I think, is for the management engine. So whatever we want is likely in the advanced section. And it may be in a subsection of one of these settings here. It's all Ethernet. I keep finding myself falling back into a lot of the same places. This all does appear to be communication, but not the USB communication. It's likely not a CPU configuration issue. What we can do is we could say, open up Google. Is there a way to have USB power always on? Minis Forum MS01. Well, I love the hardware. I find the BIOS limiting. Am I missing? USB power remains on. And nobody answered them. See, no matter what you're looking for, this person asked 5 months ago. You won't be the only one. Unless you just bought the product, it just came out and you're one of the first people to have it. Again, that's another downside of being the pioneers. It's for you to figure out. Yes, it is possible to have USB power always, but you must adjust the BIOS. You can adjust USB BIOS in the BIOS during boot up. Look for power-related settings specifically for USB. Okay, that's not very specific. And as I recall, when we were logged in, where was that? Nothing says power here. I mean, power limit on the CPU. It's not a boot option. It's not a security setting. I would think it's under onboard devices, but we're talking about displays. This is more graphics, virtual machine. This would be for RAID configurations, if you had multiple drives. Maybe something to do with PCIe. This all looks like it's graphics related. Storage, UEFI storage. You go back to our search results. Find USB power options. Search for a setting like USB power. We don't have that. So these are generic responses that, you know, your BIOS may have something like this. It's not specific to the computer we have here in front of us. Yeah, like this, I serve the home forum. Someone's asking if there's a way that if this unit loses power, you can tell it what to do, like return to its last state, do nothing and stay off, or power on automatically. This BIOS is very limited. I wonder if they might have a new BIOS for it. Let's try this. Let's go Minis Forum, support MS01. You never know. Oh, let's go back to the support center. Drivers and downloads, MS01. BIOS 126, BIOS 127. Okay, so the question is, which BIOS do we have? Let's jump back over to the KVM. Let's hit escape, escape, escape. And let's boot back into Windows. Oh, wait a minute. Does this tell us our BIOS version in here somewhere? You think it'd be under main? Yeah, BIOS version is 127. So we already have 127. Okay, escape, escape. Okay, and boot. All right, let that reload Windows, because I was going to check with CPU-Z, and then it occurred to me I'm already in the BIOS, dummy. I get there in my own time, you know, and there you go. Now, you see I've got a few of these JetKVMs still wrapped up in a package, and the reason for that is I want to do a proper, just an unboxing that I can put over on Amazon, so anybody wants to see. I hadn't done it before because they weren't available on Amazon until recently. I'm not aware of this Amazon seller, but it looks legit as far as I can tell. The Nano KVM Pro, we've already looked at the two of them. The one in the box. The one here is the one I play with, and I try and keep these as pristine as possible so that I can take what I've learned here to demonstrate here. And I've got one more of these brand new in a box to unwrap for a future video when I feel like, hey, these are available for sale and the software is good enough that I can recommend it. I'm saving it for that day. So it'll be like a regular unboxing where you can actually go and buy it and it's ready to use, like get the latest updates for it. That's why I have 3. You know, Bob Ross, when he did paintings on PBS, he always had to do 3. He had to make a master to show the producer, this is what I want to do today. And they'd say, okay, they have to, you know, block the shot and everything, and he's got to get the paints and the brushes that he needs. So they get a blank canvas and he repaints the exact same picture again. And there's a third time he does it. And I think that's so they can have an opportunity to get close-up shots. I'm trying to remember what the third one. Let me just ask Google real quick. Bob Ross made 3 versions of each painting for practicality and instruction. One before the show as a reference, one during the show to be watched by viewers, and one after the taping for instructional books. So for me to review something thoroughly, and I think this is what people kind of miss, is we can emulate all of this in editing, right? But when we're shooting live, we need to have, if we want to have any kind of, if we want to come at it in a position of experience, we need to do something off camera to familiarize ourselves with it. But once we've done that, we can no longer do an unboxing that's honest anymore. So then you do the unboxing once you familiarized yourself with it. And during that unboxing process, there still may be some learning involved, right? Especially because I'm shooting live. Also, if I want to do a follow-up and I say, look, I learned a lot from that unboxing. I really wish I could do that unboxing again now that I know what I've knowing, then I have a third one and I open up, and then that one should be perfect. But I can't get to the third one without requiring the previous one and the one before that for experience. So for me, and I tried explaining this when I was working at Newegg, they wanted to script out the build. I said, no 2 builds are the same. So if you want to script it out, the only way we can do that is we have to build it once with a producer or somebody taking notes about the processes of each individual component and how they fit together on this unique build. Once we know where we need the cameras and where we need the close-ups and how we want to explain it, we can write that all out as a script, and you can put it on a teleprompter, and then we take that built computer and we get rid of it. And we start all over again with the cameras on with a schematic. But because no 2 computers are the same, we can't predict what's going to happen. And they said, well, we don't have the budget to do 2. We barely have the budget to do 1. I go, then we got to make it up as we go, you know, and we got to fix things in editing. And for that reason, they never let me go live. They wanted way more control than that. They did not want to give the appearance that we ever learned anything. We always have to know it. Oh, Mara is reminding me to remind you guys of our friends over at SCDKeys. When I get my Windows licenses or Office licenses for myself or for my clients, I'm looking for a place where I'm not going to pay top dollar because I need to be competitive in my market. I need to provide solutions that are reliable, genuine, authentic, and supported to my clients. That's what they pay me for. So normally manufacturers, even small guys like me, don't share their sources because why would you? That's kind of your secret sauce. It's wanting to know the ingredients to Coca-Cola. It's wanting to know the secret 11 herbs and spices in Kentucky Fried Chicken. These are patented industry secrets. Not with me, they're not. So I reached out to my supplier and I said, can we sell this to the audience? And they said, yeah, we'd love to. You know, who wouldn't want more sales? I go, okay, but what are you going to do for them? We'll give them 25% off if they use the coupon code CAREY. And they still get the same quality products I'm buying? Yep. And they're still basically paying the price I'm paying once you use the coupon code. Yep. And they still get 6 months of support? Yep. I said, you got to be kidding me. So the folks over at VIP-URCDKEYs, they do accept PayPal as a payment. They have other software besides Windows and Office, but I don't get involved in any of that. If you want to, knock yourself out. But when I need to get business done, and I want it done right the first time, and I'm not trying to, you know, save $2 and then risk my reputation for $2, I need to buy from reputable sources. And it's hard to find that when it comes to software these days. So having done the research, because I have to, I am now able to share that with you, as I have been now with this company. We're going on our 3rd year. So that you don't have to like rush out and buy it right now. You can wait till you need it. They're not a fly-by-night company. I suggest, should you need an Office license key or a Windows license key, you buy it when you need it. And the reason I say that is if you buy it now and you don't use it for 8 months, you've already lost your 6 months of support. And then when you say, oh, I bought this 8 months ago and it doesn't work, you know, that's what a scammer does. Try that at Best Buy. Try that at Amazon. Buy something and try and return it or get any help from the company you bought it from after 30 days. Your return period's gone. We had people when I worked at Best Buy that would do just that. We had 2 different kinds of scammers. We had the kind that would break something 3 months after they bought it and then claim they never took it out of the box. Oh, I took it out of the box this way. You've had it for 3 months. Well, it's because I bought it and I went on vacation and then I got busy and no. Whether or not that's a lie or the truth doesn't matter. The back of the receipt states very plainly you have 30 days. So before you left on your vacation, you should have at least inspected it for damage, and you didn't do that. That's not on us. Or one of the problems we had was people would buy a camcorder because they were going on vacation. They would use the camcorder on vacation, and when they got back from vacation, put it back in the box and want to return it at Best Buy. So camcorders had a return period of like 7 days. And it was because of all of the scamming abuse. Just regular people just trying to be little amateur thieves. And, you know, Best Buy's richer than me, so I don't feel guilty about stealing from the rich. It's still stealing. And it was so common. Nationwide, this became a platform that Best Buy instituted nationwide. That the common culture was it was okay to steal. We're going to rent this product for free and then we're going to return it when we're done with it. Now, this doesn't exist anymore since everybody's got a smartphone, right? Pretty much with a camera already built into it. But there were certain items like music and movies and books. You might have already read it and you want to return it? No. It'd be like complaining to the chef that your meal was terrible, but your plate is completely empty. If you ate it, it must not be that bad. Or you come in and you go, you know, I ate here 2 weeks ago and the food was terrible. Why are you like eating there and what you're trying to do is get food for free, and you're trying to like eating there and what you're trying to do is get food for free, and you're trying to work a system and you're trying to justify it in your head. You're a thief and you're trying to put them out of business. And I'm not suggesting anybody here does that, but I'm saying when you work in the industry, every single day, somebody's trying to work a little loophole to your disadvantage. And they add up very quickly. And word gets out, if some loophole works, they write about it online, and then all of a sudden, all these people start trying it. It's crazy. So links for the Windows and Office key from a reputable seller with support. It's legal, legit, authentic. If you're interested in that peace of mind, knowing that you're not being taken to the cleaners, you're not going to be abandoned, and you're going to get the exact product you paid for, I'm telling you, this is where I go to support my business and my reputation. You do with that whatever you want. It's not a commission-based link. I'm not making any more or less money if you choose to buy it. I put it out there for you guys on behalf of you guys. Because, well, some of you may use Adobe and some of you may use something else. We all use Windows. Many of us use Office. And so if there's something like that that I can offer you guys at a discount, like RoboForm, Malwarebytes, stuff like that, we do what we can to look out for you guys. For, you know, very common pieces of software that most of us all use. So that's why we do it, and I can't thank the folks over at VIP-URCDKEYs enough for the consistency and the quality of the product they sell, because again, it reflects on my reputation. If they screw it up, if they do anything bad, it's the same as if I did something bad because I referred it. So that's not an easy thing to get me to endorse something. Same is true with Minisform too. If they made computers that they didn't support or were problematic, I wouldn't associate my own reputation to these companies. Now, some of these companies haven't been around long enough for me to establish. I've been very happy with all three of these units, the Pico, the Nano, I almost said the Nino, the Pico, the Nino, and the Santa Maria. No, we've got the JetKVM, the Nano KVM Pro, and the Pico KVM. I'm looking forward to testing the ARC-KVM. And they just keep getting better. They're also getting more expensive. These are upwards of $200 right now, but like the, let me really quickly before we go, the one that I'm looking forward to next is, let's go back to, let me go to Google. We're looking for the GLINet Comet Pro. I think they're already starting to sell these to the general public as a pre-ordered item. Because remember, they haven't fulfilled all the backers on Kickstarter yet. Let's try this first link, Comet Pro at GLINet.com. Wow, they almost raised $1 million. Is there a pre-order page for it? I guess they're still taking late pledges until December. So how much is a late pledge? Let's see. You can get 5 of them for $545. That's a good price per unit. I don't know how many people need 5 of them. You can still get one for $120. Now these all have Wi-Fi, whereas it's an option on the Nano KVM Pro. It is not an option here. It is with Wi-Fi. $129. I thought I saw it at $179, but maybe that's with the ATX board. And it looks like they still have that. Nothing is sold out. There's one with a travel case. There's one with the finger bot that can push a button for you remotely. I think that's such an overly simplistic way to automate something. I want it to push a button. How could I do that? I don't know. How about a little lever that comes out and pushes the button? How is it going to stay attached? Sticky tape. Okay. So there you go. There's 3 units for $372, so that works out to about $120 something a piece. It's not bad. And these will ship. Yeah, there's the $99 price was limited. They only sold, they limited that to the first 750 people. Those were long gone on day 1. Before the middle of day 1, those were gone. And then these were also gone, which they limited that to 500 people. Those are sold out. That one, so all these are sold out. All the way down. See how that's all grayed out? So all of the lower prices for the early adopters, you know, they're saying, hey, thank you for supporting us. Since you believe in us, we're going to give you a lower price until we reach this many people. And then the price goes up. And so that's where we're at today. And it does show estimated delivery at some point in December. So we expect ours to come in right around the middle of the month. But regardless of when it arrives, we're going to make a video on it right away. And I only have 1 of these coming. I didn't order 3 of them. because I'm afraid that this is going to turn out to be like the regular Comet, which I never use. In other words, if this absolutely requires 4 cables or 3 cables with Wi-Fi, I'm probably not going to use it because I don't want to wire up the extra cable. Everybody else can provide power and the keyboard and mouse through 1 cable, but for some reason Comet hasn't figured this out. I'm hopeful they figured it out here, but I'm doubtful. So that way I've only ordered 1. And I verified the Nano KVM Pro can run on 2 cables, as I've demonstrated. This also needs to run on 2 cables. 1 for power, keyboard and mouse, the other for HDMI. That's it. It should get on Wi-Fi, and it should get all the power it needs from the 1 USB. But the previous Comet, the non-Pro version, will not function without a separate power cable. And it's the only KVM on the market that requires it, at least on this new models. On the older ones, like the PicoKVMs, they had a separate power brick, just to show you how far along these have come. So, also, you know, Mara's got her cookbook out. If you guys are looking for healthier, no sugar, low carb alternatives to things that actually taste good, you don't have to sacrifice and go without. She introduces new alternatives that didn't exist years ago for things like sugar and flour that, for the most part, are the closest you're going to get with texture without changing really any of the baking process. You can still follow the same recipes. And she's got a number of recipes in both books, particularly if you're diabetic, if you're fighting high blood sugar. This is an issue of life or death, right? You can't just go and have candy bars and you know, it'll kill you. So for her, it's not, how can I explain this? It's not a choice, but it is a choice. Instead of seeing this as a disability, she sees it as a superpower. She now has this strong interest in creating delicious foods that are also healthy, that don't taste like they're healthy. If you get what I'm saying. And she loves it. She loves the things she creates, and she wants to share that with other people. So she's got 2 self-published cookbooks on Amazon right now, and they're available on Kindle, paperback, and hardback. So I think even if you're part of the Kindle library, it's free, if I'm not mistaken. So those links are in Amazon as well. And if you try any of those recipes, or if you're having questions about any of those recipes, she loves talking about that stuff. Just send an email to our channel, and you want to share your experience or have suggestions, you can reach out to us at showcasecreate@gmail.com. All right, that's going to wrap it up for a long Sunday show. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you all for being members and supporting us, and for everybody that was just joining us in the chat hanging out. Hey, you're welcome to come back again. We love seeing you. We love having you. Tomorrow, it's Monday, December the 1st. We start a new month and a new members-only video. I've got a laptop here that's been sitting in storage. And I took it out of storage. It's still like new, but it won't turn on anymore. And I thought, I'm going to diagnose this. And we've had it a while. It's out of warranty. Because if it was in warranty, I wouldn't fix it. So tomorrow, for members only, we're going to do a live diagnostic and make an attempt to fix it live. No edits. We're going to get real results, and we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll get it working. Maybe you'll have some suggestions on how to fix it. I hope you'll join me then. It's at our usual time. That's 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. It's 1 p.m. for me here in Phoenix all year. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. I want to thank all of you again for hanging out. I look forward to seeing the members tomorrow. And until then, bye for now.